You're a great husband, Jonathan.
You are great.
That's all I wanted to hear.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, a weekly look at everything going on inside the world of CinemaSins. I'm Aaron Dicer, and I'm joined as always by Jonathan Watkins.
Hello.
And Danae Hughes.
What's up?
We write for CinemaSins and TV Sins, and do various other things inside the CinemaSins universe as well, as apparently imitating old Budweiser ads.
I'm sorry.
Is one of them.
I'm sorry.
What was that?
Well, I was trying to do that thing, the candy cane thing that I don't understand it, but
the candy cane.
Oh, it's from Joyride. It's the truck driver in Joyride.
Yeah.
It's actually Ted Levine's voice. The
put the lotion in the basket.
Put the lotion in the basket guy from Silence of the Lambs. Buffalo Bill.
Try to do
right?
a Buffalo Bill impersonation.
Buffalo Bill, won't you come out tonight? Come out tonight.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's perfect.
It's like I'm just watching Silence of the Lambs right now.
I couldn't believe it. That was amazing.
But anyways, as the truck driver voice, he says candy cane like super creepy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that explains it all. Isn't everybody completely caught up now? We are going to have a good time today. I'm really excited to get into a great week of videos, all that kind of stuff. Everybody doing okay after Halloween? Everybody, did you guys still eat candy around Halloween?
Too much.
That's pretty much the only time I eat candy.
Yeah, it's too much.
I just kind of say, fuck it, I'm eating candy. It's Halloween.
Yeah, I used to.
I don't eat a lot of candy, so
I used to do that, and then my kids got older, and they don't go trick or treating, so they don't have a stash. And this year we were out doing something on Halloween night, so we didn't buy candy to hand out. So I was like, oh, cool, I'm not actually eating candy this year, so that kind of worked out nice.
Well, that's good. Then you can just eat extra Thanksgiving.
That's
right. How that works.
That's right. That is how that works.
Yeah,
I'm down for that.
Did Iris get candy this year?
She got 6 pieces of candy.
Aw, how many did you eat?
6.
You ate all of her candy?
Yeah.
You ate every last piece of her candy.
So judge me if you will, but don't at me. We still haven't had her eat sugar.
She's not doing sugar yet.
Yeah. We're doing our best. Definitely at any point in time that's going to change. And she's had sugar. She's had ice cream and.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, can I be there the first time she tastes sugar?
She's had maybe like 3 bites of ice cream ever. So it's not a lot. Mm-hmm. We actually went to a parade recently and they were throwing out candy, and there was a child that was her age who, while we were sitting there watching the parade, had like 4 Tootsie Rolls.
Yeah, just shoving them in the mouth. Yeah.
And I was like, am I doing something wrong?
There's nothing better than a street Tootsie Roll during a parade.
Yeah. Except for when the horses go by. Those are not edible.
That's a different kind of street Tootsie Roll.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really feel bad about it because she doesn't know what she's missing, number 1. And number 2, I do a lot of research. She gets a lot of natural sugar. She has a lot of fruit, and there's sugar and everything. But we just haven't given her like sugar cookies and stuff like that and candy.
But you don't have a time in mind?
No.
You're just kind of waiting until the mood strikes?
No, I just know it's going to happen. And then we'll have to just try to do our best to just limit her intake.
We actually did keep, my daughter still does not drink soda though, and she's 8, so we're pretty happy about that. My wife was really adamant that she wasn't going to drink juice. We let that go about 2.
Yeah.
She started drinking apple juice, but
yeah, we just we water ours down. We do half water, half juice.
I think that's how we started. I think, that's a good way to start. Now she just drinks like the regular Mott's for Tots or whatever.
Right. And there's a lot of natural sugar in that stuff. So
she
gets
insane
sugar,
amount. Yeah.
But she doesn't get added sugar because she doesn't need it. It's crazy the amount of research that's gone into it. Like this is crazy. So doctors they recommend, I think it's like 2 tablespoons of added sugar a day only from the time that you're 2 until you're 18.
Like that's the max.
Like that's all you're supposed to. Yeah. I just had a Krispy Kreme donut style donut that's just like been bathed in icing. It's not Krispy Kreme, but it's similar. Like that's like probably enough for the next 3 days.
Right. It's supposed to be technically. Yeah.
So,
yeah, we kept the only sugar our kids had was fruit as well, like Fruit Loops, Fruity Pebbles. So yeah, that's all fruit sugar. Cool. So yeah.
And no judgment on parents who do that.
Oh, absolutely.
No judgment. It's just we're just trying to do something a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good for you.
I guess.
Well, I just wondered if you had the moral conversation of, do I eat my child's candy? Because it seems to be a popular conversation on the internet. Like, is that something you should do? I've always been firmly on the side of candy tax, and that's completely appropriate for a parent to take candy tax. But I wondered where you fell on that. And apparently, you take 100% candy tax.
Well, I will say with my daughter, it's very easy because she's like the pickiest sweets eater I've ever been around in my life. So there's only like 3 or 4 pieces of candy she even likes. So basically she gets like her bowl, and then my wife and I just create a bowl for stuff that she doesn't like that we like, and then we have a third bowl for crap that neither one of us like.
Right.
That my wife takes to her office or we give to somebody else.
Orange things that people they're just wrapped in an orange plastic.
Yeah, well, we're not big on like Skittles and Starburst and like I guess like kind of the fruit. Like I eat fruit snacks, but like outside of fruit snacks, like I just don't really do like the fruity candy. Yeah. I'm more, if I'm going to eat candy, I'm going to go chocolate and peanuts and that kind of stuff. But
it was funny when you said her bowl. I thought you said herbal. And so it's like, whoa, what kind of herbal candies are your daughter's on the earth?
I was thinking more like special. I was thinking like special brownies is what he was talking
exactly.
about.
Yeah,
No. You're talking about like those cough drops, the all natural herbal cough drops.
We don't give our daughter soda, but some herb. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. Totally yeah, the soda is the thing we're fighting, but I mean marijuana, whatever, it's natural.
But we hope you guys had fun during your Halloween. If you have any fun stories to share, you should let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Hit us up behindthesinnspod@gmail.com. Let's get into it. Let's do the SinSide Scoop.
What's he building in there?
I've got a secret.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
All right, let's do it, guys. We're going to take a look at the actual Sins videos of the week. We'll give you some of our thoughts on the material that we send, as well as the Sins videos themselves, and maybe a look behind the scenes.
Maybe. That's the whole point of the show.
Maybe we'll do some of that. We'll kick it off with TV Sins, then do music video Sins, and finish with the Big Daddy Cinema Sins. TV Sins this past week started with Bates Motel, which we granted Danae a reprieve from writing on Gates
Brotel.
Gates Brotel.
Maybe we should have granted all of us a reprieve.
This was a Dicer Watkins joint. Yeah. I've never seen the show before. Jonathan, I think you watch it, correct?
I did. I watched it. It was 5 seasons, but it was still a pretty short show because they only did 10 episode seasons, so it was like 50 episodes. I enjoyed it. I will say though, the first like season and a half is not. It doesn't really find its groove, I think, till about halfway through season 2.
Okay.
Not that there's not good stuff before then, but it definitely, when I tell people it ends up being a really good show, they'll watch those first couple episodes and be like, are you insane? I'm like, no, just if you want to stick with it, it gets better. That's all I can say.
Does it get better in the way that, like, what part of it is most exciting for you as you watched all 5 seasons?
Well, it was just, I'm not a prequel person per se, so that was already kind of a negative for me even going into it. But the relationship that develops, the chemistry, I mean, the mother-son chemistry, nothing beyond that, but between Vera Farmiga and Freddie Highmore, they're just, I mean, they feel like a mother and son, a really creepy version of a mother and son. But I'm just saying they feel like they're related, and they play off each other really well, and they give really good performances, even though we make fun of Freddie Highmore a little bit in this, and then we took some slack for that. But that's a big part of it. But just I don't know. At some point, though, it became really interesting to find out how they were going to get it, because it ends at Psycho, basically.
That's what I've heard, and that is why I'm interested. I'm not.
Because I mean but they also, I mean, not to give too much away, they don't wait to the end to deal with the outcome of Vera Farmiga's character. So that also makes it interesting, because And just, I mean, I guess because it's like, it's a weird thing where you know how it's going to end from the beginning. Like, you know exactly what's going to happen.
Well, sure, it's a prequel, yeah.
But they still find ways to make it really intense and suspenseful and exciting and good. They do some things, like they make the town itself like a little shady. There's this whole storyline about drugs in the town, and there's kind of like, I guess, like mob bosses, if you want to call them that. There's a lot of, it's almost kind of got like a Twin Peaks feel to it. So they do stuff like that to kind of take you away from the Norman Bates stuff, but they still pretty much get into the Norman Bates stuff about halfway through season 2, and then they just kind of kick it into high gear from there. And it's pretty fascinating. For
me, that's the stuff that's interesting to me. I'm a huge Hitchcock fan.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've seen Psycho many, many times. And the prequel stuff is at least engaging that part of my brain that wants to see how they're going to do it, right? As I watched this first episode, I was struck by Vera Farmiga and Freddie Highmore, that they're good. And, you could do worse than this cast for sure. And so their performances are worth watching. I just, it's hard for me to pull the trigger on a 50 episode investment, but
I hear you.
But it's kind of up there on my list. If I have a gap somewhere, a time gap to watch something that I want to watch, that's funny. Then this is one that's high on my list to possibly fill that with.
Yeah, I'm the same way with like Hannibal's another one. Like I didn't watch Hannibal, but I've only heard that it's amazing.
Yeah,
it is kind of one of those things.
I actually did watch the first season or 2 of Hannibal, and it just got so. And I get it because it's kind of the whole point. But it got so dark and so disgusting that I was just like, nah.
Which one?
Hannibal, the Silence of the Lambs prequel,
which was like
show.
A prequel to The Silence of the Lambs.
I gotcha.
But I'm kind of like you. Like that's one of those where if I ever find a gap, I've heard enough about it to where I'm like, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
But prequels in general, that's just not something I tend to go for. I'm not saying you can't make a good one, but
it's difficult.
They don't interest me typically.
Yeah. Today, do you have any interest in this show whatsoever? I don't know if you even have a relationship to like Psycho the movie. If you've ever seen it,
Alfred Hitchcock,
Hitchcock, or any of that kind of stuff.
I get to once again reveal myself as not having a lot of experience with that, you know, and I kind of get nervous about that because I know that there are certain films or certain things that it's like you have to watch this to.
Well, but in this case, it's a horror movie, so I wouldn't expect that it's something you've purposely put in front of yourself.
So, like, I know. Here's what I know about Psycho: there's a shower and a knife. That's it.
I will say this. I would call Psycho a horror movie, but it definitely has a lot of thriller elements. And with you being a true crime fan,
that's the next thing I was going to say.
It's loosely based on Ed Gein.
Is that's where I do kind of like pop in, is when I see a movie, if it says it's based on something true, I'll go and try to figure out what that true stuff is. Like, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff.
Same guy, by the way.
Like, it's kind of based on one horrible situation that kind of, explodes into these various imaginations.
Is it Gein or Gein?
Gein? I think it's Gein.
Okay. Anyways, he is.
I could be wrong.
He's definitely spurred plenty of horror stuff for a reason. It's there was a great podcast called Inside Psycho. I don't know if you listened to it, but
I did. Wonder, I believe, put that on a couple of years ago.
That might interest you, Danae. It is. I mean, it does talk graphically about some of the stuff he did, so I don't know if that would be a trigger for you. But it's definitely interesting in how it tells the true crime story of what this person who is based on Psycho.
Yeah, and I believe that stuff is mostly in the first episode, but they do go into detail. Because even I was like, I don't know that I want to keep listening.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I'll say this here.
But it was interesting.
I guess I'll say this here, and we do sin it in the show. It is interesting to me that they're trying to give so much empathy to these characters. And honestly, there's an interesting discussion to have about that, about empathy for serial killers. But it's fascinating to take an entertainment piece like this that is kind of has the CW tropes to it and that kind of stuff. Right. And then also have it be about an actual human being who did these awful things. I don't know. It definitely had a weird, there's a weird vibe there when I watch it.
And he's a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's at the beginning. I mean, even when it ends, I mean, he's not really that old. I mean, he's like probably like early 20s when it ends. So, I mean, he's basically a kid the whole time. So that adds another layer of just like, you just don't really know how to feel.
Yeah.
But you know what's going to happen, and that should take the suspense out of it. But they eventually do a good enough job to where somehow it doesn't. I don't know how they pulled that off, and it could just be like you're saying. If you're already a Hitchcock fan, if this is something, maybe that's where my interest lied. So I made it through. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
well, let's talk about the video.
For sure.
Video itself. Danae, Jonathan, and I wrote on this, so we'll come to you first with any observations from the video.
I watched it.
Hey, yay!
Yeah. She kills somebody.
Yes.
And
did that make sense? I got to tell you, it was hard to edit around. There's sexual assault that happens there. It's not just like there's a pretty graphic sexual assault in the show, and we wanted to be sensitive to those triggers, and so we edited around it a lot. But I was afraid maybe it didn't make sense what was going on.
Well, I didn't pick up on the sexual assault at all. I just picked up that she was being assaulted.
Okay, well that's kind of what we intended.
So, and then I guess they cover it up, and this is sort of the start of his weirdness. I don't know.
Well, there's underlying things already, but yeah.
No, I like the video.
Well, there's a whole, at the beginning, you find out that his dad has been killed, or is dead. I mean, that's a mystery that kind of keeps going at least through the first season or two.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think for me, again, I watch these sometimes. I haven't seen them before, and I'm curious about them, and it's not meant to be an explanation of what to expect in the show. This is, so there's part of me that's like, what's going on? And then part of me is like, hee, that was funny. So
talk about that stuff.
I gravitate towards sins that are about continuity, things like that don't make sense. That's just,
I'm learning this about you. Yeah.
I'm more that person than I am like, let's make a reference to another film or another movie, because I don't do that well. So like the bed being uncovered, but the rest of the house was covered. I loved that because I'm like, that's the kind of thing I'd find,
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
I channeled my inner Danae when looking for that.
Well, you were doing this before I got here. Let's just be clear. So, and it was also interesting too, the whole like everybody, new kid moves to small town and there's a big, huge party with lasers and all this stuff. And it's funny how like you don't realize how stupid that is until you're, really critically thinking about everything you're watching.
Yeah.
And so that's so true that oftentimes in these, you've got somebody who's displaced, who's new, who's displaced, who's trying to fit in, trying to find, his purpose or his people. And they go to like some ridiculous party. Like that happens all the time.
I legit for that sin thought about what the equivalent party would have been when I was in high school. And it legit was sitting around a campfire drinking a 2-liter Mountain Dew.
Well, in this town would have 100% been like a bonfire party.
Right.
Yeah.
This would not have been like a
lasers
day glow,
and DJ.
black light.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And I think we went with Aaron's. But Aaron and I both wrote something on that because it was just so ridiculous.
Yeah. Day glow orgy balls, I think I called them.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think that it was fun to watch. I'm not curious enough to watch the rest of it. I'll probably just spoil it. I'll just go read about it.
I hear you. And I like anybody that,
you know what?
Granted,
I do think I remember that, it must have been seasons later. I think I watched 2 episodes because there had just been something that happened where I think he kills somebody from the school, like a girl or something. I don't know. He kills somebody. Norman does.
Yeah, I haven't seen the show, so I don't know.
And I remember being
he definitely kills people. Yes.
Oh, okay. And so I was like, okay, well, what is that like? And then there was a police officer kind of coming around talking about drugs or something. And I remember watching it.
So you have accidentally watched a little bit of it.
Yeah, but it didn't draw me in enough to keep me.
Which is generally the case when you hop into the middle of a dramatic show like this.
Well, and I did actually have a sin that we took out because it was kind of one of those seeing into the future things. But there's a whole thing with the Keegan Connor Tracy character, the teacher, that comes to a head in the first season finale that probably really sets him off on his path.
Interesting.
And I mentioned that in a sin, and we just decided to get rid of it. But they get into him pretty quickly, like as far as.
Well, that is why people watch. you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Jonathan, anything from the video you wanted to mention?
I mean, yeah, I had the high school parties written down, obviously. The how's the peepin', just putting that in as a sin was really funny.
Especially for the classic
it was like,
example.
Well, and that's such a Norman Bates thing, too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my God. This is tooting my own horn, but the Nicola Peltz, how the sin where I wrote where how she got stuck in the Transformers movie.
Yes. Yep.
And also going back to the Keegan Connor Tracy thing where she thinks she's in a CW show, even though because this does feel like a CW show, especially this pilot.
Yeah, I gotta say,
even though it was totally an A&E show.
This is one of the only things I had to mention about the video, and I guess we'll just do it here, is how CW, especially the girls in this show, are in the pilot. And I didn't go to high school with these girls. I don't know who these girls are. They're so aggressive and so you can be who you want to be, but it just seemed like I don't know these people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I will say there's a lot going on with the Nicola Peltz character that you find out later on. It doesn't still make it. She's still not like. But
when they meet,
she's not a high school kid.
When they meet him, there are I think 4 girls there, and they just pepper him with nosy question after nosy question. I'm just like, chill. Like it was wild to me. The only other thing I wanted to mention is I did a thing where I wrote a skip, but I just did capital letters and I had the I, like 12 eyes, just because I was curious how Jeremy would interpret it. And Jeremy did not let me down. The skip in this is one of my favorite parts, the way he interpreted it.
Somebody commented on that too, said like that was a very aggressive skip or something.
Yes, I saw that one too.
The only other thing I mentioned was the roll kill commercials, which Aaron coined. I thought that was great. And I couldn't believe that they actually had a scene of a guy walking out of a bathroom saying, "You just have to jiggle it." I was like, it's like they knew that TV Sins was going to be a thing.
That's right. They were ready for us.
Years later, they're like, here's a gift from the guy from Lost.
Yeah.
We both had "Oh God, Mother" outtakes at different points in the show. I thought that was interesting.
You just have to do it. You just have to do it.
That was funny.
Let's move on to Friends.
Cool.
The one where Ross meets Elizabeth's dad. This was a Dicer Hughes joint.
Bruce Willis.
Also known as Woos Brillis.
I hate guest stars on sitcoms.
It works sometimes, but very rarely.
I find that when it's like that big of like a movie, which he was, I mean, this was like Bruce Willis' prime as a movie star, or maybe near the end of it, but still, like, he was just larger than life. And it's like they just never know really what to do with them, like, and they end up just playing up on their stereotypes, like their movie. Will and Grace was probably the biggest victim of this. And Will and Grace got to the point where it was insane because every week they would have somebody on. It would be like, Jennifer Lopez, and then Madonna, and then Oprah, Friends did not do it near as much. It was good, but
is this
I just did not find this funny.
Is this the only truly bad Friends episode that we send? Like, I think this is a bad episode. Like,
it's the worst.
The others are kind of classics.
I think this is worse than the poker episode.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Because I just don't particularly like that one, but this is definitely worse than that one.
These make me nervous because the comments, the fans are they know that it's kind of coming to an end because they're catching up on our Run series, and so this cannot be the last one. And I'm like,
we had a few people tweet saying they were going to miss the Friends videos. I was like, there's plenty of episodes. Like, I'm sure we can come back to it.
Feel free to send them yourselves.
That's right. You can do this with the at-home version.
We've got a
new
app.
I think in general, ding, ding, ding. The Elizabeth storyline is one of the weirdest that the show ever did. And it wasn't even so much that he was dating a student. It was the way they went about it was what was weird. It was the way they wrote the episodes.
Well,
and just
all the jokes just seem so forced.
Well, it's a weird one. I kept wondering, like, what's the significance of this one except for that it's the Bruce Willis coming in.
That's it. That's the reason people ask us to do it.
You have the introduction of mac and cheese, although I don't think that lasts very long from what I remember, but that does carry on into more episodes. Yeah,
for sure.
So you have that as well, but that's definitely the B story. I mean, the Bruce Willis and Rachel thing lasts a couple more episodes too. So this isn't the only episode he's in.
What an awkward way to make out on the couch.
Right?
like just, with your legs kind of twisted to each other, your legs intertwined, like just lay on each other. Like I don't understand what they were doing.
Talk about two people that have no chemistry.
I know.
Because Bruce Willis and Jennifer Aniston. I mean, these are two like very attractive people.
Yeah.
And they just have no chemistry.
Yeah, that did not work for me. No,
like it looks like neither one of them want to be there. It's just. And I think you guys, I don't know which one of you wrote the thing. I mean, I'm assuming it's Aaron. But I seem to do this. And then Danae's like, no, that was me, or vice versa. But the whole 9 yard stuff.
Oh, yeah, that was
that
me.
does seem very much like Matthew Perry. It was like, hey, man, can you do me a solid?
Yeah.
And play this person's dad.
Yeah. It's a rough one. Jonathan, why don't you talk about the Sins video first, since Danae and I wrote on it.
Yeah,
what's some of the stuff you like?
Lightsaber penis battles, I wrote down. I'm really curious who wrote that one.
That was me, and I have to say, I did kind of channel my inner Danae while writing that. Yeah, because I was like, Danae has this thing where when people's hand motions don't match what they're talking about, she'll and so I was like, what? He's like, yeah, because he was talking about he had to have had sex to have, the baby or whatever. And he was like, yeah, we had to. And then he takes two fingers and he taps,
crisscrosses
he
together.
taps them against each other. I'm like, what does that represent? What is
they're doing the
how
thing?
How is that a sexual thing? Like in the real world, maybe you make a circle and a finger and you do the circle finger thing.
That is the crude new one.
But
it used to be in the 90s. It used to be this.
Really?
No,
hold on. I would have totally believed you because I would have been totally oblivious to that.
Are you guys making like gestures on a podcast?
Yes, it works really well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, on audio only format.
So what did you do? Like the hole with your fingers and
the whole
poke in?
Yeah, but in the 90s it was the lightsaber battle.
Yeah.
But that's a joke. I made that up.
Yeah.
I'm not the aficionado or whatever on sexual hand gestures.
Anyhow,
I think you might be. I think you might be. I'm the horror guy. Aaron's the animated guy. You're the sexual hand gesture.
That's me.
Person.
Yeah.
Woman. Oh. Rachel is a villain, which I at first assumed Danae wrote that, but then I'm like, well, maybe Aaron was finding his inner Danae there, and he decided to write an evil Rachel said, but it was probably Danae.
I really love that in the comments, I actually saw someone call me out. Like, if Rachel is a villain, that's got to be Danae. And I replied, maybe.
Well, to confirm it, yes, that was Danae.
Yeah.
Yeah. The noticing the set designers left out an entire wall.
Smugly back while people unravel around her a second time. Like,
now we slowed that down
but
to where it looked a little more evil than it was.
No. I watched that so many times. Like, no, she is smirking. She's a smirker.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Oh man, the set designers leaving out an entire wall. I wrote that down. I thought that was a really good catch.
That was Danae.
And this had nothing to do with anything you guys wrote, but there was the Bruce Willis falls on the smarm line. That was a great scene. But the way we slowed that scene down to get the entire narration in, the actress playing Elizabeth is like, we slowed it down so much, it looks like she's giving Bruce Willis like a sexy stare, which is really weird because she's his daughter.
She had the same expression on the entire episode anyway. She was just this prop, this sort of grinning
and we send it.
Yeah,
we send
that really bothered me.
Yeah.
About her.
This was the one, right? This was the one with the really satirical "let the men talk."
Yes.
Sin.
Yes.
And we didn't get any flack for it.
No.
I'm glad people understand
people
that that's
got
a joke.
it. Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is, it's not so much that, I mean, it's an inappropriate relationship or anything, which you could argue that it is. And I mean, you could probably argue that it's not. But it's just, there's so many interesting avenues they could have taken with that. Yeah. And they just didn't do it. Yeah. Like, and in that way, they made it creepier than it probably needed to be. That's just always kind of been my take on it.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to address from this video in the comments, and if one of you has it in the comments section, we can talk about it then, that's fine. But so somebody mentioned not calling out the fact that they love the movie Die Hard, and yet here's Bruce Willis, who obviously starred in Die Hard. I pondered that I really did. I pondered writing a sin on that for a long time, and
You're saying like one of those sins where it's like in their world they love Die Hard, so Die Hard exists. Right. So why wouldn't they say, "Hey, you look exactly like that guy"? Right. They don't mention Die Hard in that episode, right?
No.
So we would be playing off like like
it would be mentioning
that's what
something. It wasn't
because
involved in this particular.
Yeah, the proof isn't in this episode.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not. The episode, I believe it's the one where, is it the one where Ross and Joey are like napping together?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Watching Die Hard. Do you remember that, Aaron? I think that's what they must be referring to.
It is. And again, I think that's right. I think the proof isn't in this episode, and that's why it felt off to me. And
I agree.
That's just going to happen sometimes. But yeah, I definitely considered it, but it wasn't there.
Yeah, you can do that like in a movie because we can go back and pull that out. But like, yeah, you can't really do that in a show where we've never covered that episode.
Right.
And even if we have, I mean, that'd still be weird. I don't know. Yeah, we just have to kind of play around with stuff differently with TV Sins.
Mm-hmm.
And we want it to be different, too. I mean, we want it to have its own voice and everything anyway. So.
Yeah, for sure.
The comments kind of threw me off on this one a little bit because there's a couple of them that I just didn't know. And I thought I had done research, but obviously I didn't. So apologies, everybody.
Apparently, what happened? Did you make a mistake? Do you need to apologize?
Lived with them at the time.
Yeah,
and they weren't married. And I did mention they're the dumping ground for marital stereotypes.
But they don't have to be married to be the dumping ground for those stereotypes.
I stand behind that joke.
Yeah.
But then like the insinuation is that Phoebe is living in a married person's apartment.
Right.
So they weren't yet married. Whatever they get married, come at me. And then, but the whole Phoebe being there, I remember that for a little while she didn't live in her apartment, and I was trying to figure out if that was the case in this particular show. Y'all don't even know how hard it is unless you are a super diehard fan to really piece together the timeline of some of these episodes. And I must have missed that. So that's why Phoebe was sitting in the apartment.
Yeah, but still, like, the way she goes about doing... I mean, there's still sins there, though. Like, that whole scene is just so awkward.
I think it still stands, but the reference isn't accurate. I'm okay with it, too.
Yeah.
We also talked about Bruce Willis on this one, and the people are raging because he lost a bet to Matthew Perry and wasn't actually paid.
But that's not true. That's an urban legend.
It is an urban legend, but I did some research post because everyone was talking about it. I was like, we looked at that. I remember we actually talked about that. I guess Bruce Willis did say that he lost a bet and that he donated all the money to like a charity.
Well, no, those are two separate things.
Okay.
As far as I understand, and maybe you did find something that says differently. My understanding is there was no bet, but he did donate what he was paid to charity for that episode.
No matter what, we can still that's still okay to like. It's interesting, right? Because you got these urban legends and like everybody believes these things. So it was really hard for me to pinpoint whether it was true or not, because there are some that are like, he actually did say this in an interview, but then there's no reference to the interview, and so it's just it's hard.
I'm sorry. There's an urban legend that why he was on the episode was because he lost a bet.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
No. Yeah. That wouldn't even make any sense because he's on multiple episodes. It's like a 3 or 4 episode arc.
Yeah.
I also really like this one because I got to write the joke about the very soft toilet paper. I was really
that was great.
I was really proud of that one, and I was also really proud, just a little self back pat here, for the sin where Joey's agent finds him, and she says, "Hey, Joey, glad I found you." And just the fact that my brain clicked over into. With cell phones, you're never like glad I found you.
Yeah, right.
You always know you're reaching somebody. So it had that era of having to call landlines to find people, even though he was on a cell phone. I was actually really proud of that one because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting better at finding these little weird things.
That reminds me of that scene because it's so bad. It is so Joey, Estelle is just so bad. And I believe that actress actually passed away. So I mean, I'm not speaking ill of her personally. I just didn't like that character. Right. Totally.
It was so over the top and it was just ridiculous.
So I made a sin about, when it's bad, it's, got cut at dress in SNL bad or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's the second time I guess I've compared a Friends moment to being bad SNL or whatever. And I think that's an interesting part of doing this job is we do intentional repeats and we also do unintentional repeats sometimes. And it's all part of the fun. Like it's just, our brains are going to go to the same place sometimes. But yeah, maybe it's because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
What it feels like.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know, one of you might have written this down, but in one of the, I believe it's this week, right? In one of the CinemaSins, there's a Charlie Brown holiday special reference.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which was just kind of, and I don't even, and we didn't write on it. So I don't know if the fact that we were doing that played into somebody's brain, while they were writing the script, somebody from the A-Team, but I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff happens. Like, and we'll talk about this video later because that's in the Hocus Pocus video, right?
Yeah, that's right. It was Hocus Pocus, yeah.
But in that same video, there is a reference to the Addams Family and the, bad things are good thing they did, and we just sinned the Addams Family. So that's definitely going to happen. Well, I think that'll wrap it up with TV sins. Let's move on to music video sins. Selena Gomez, Lose You to Love Me. Barrett writing on this, of course. We'll talk about the song first. I love the lyrics to this song.
I agree.
I think this is a really beautiful exploration of like how toxic relationships can affect you, how, and also how toxic relationships are on a spectrum. Like, toxicity isn't like an on or off button. And so a lot of times that balancing act can be really weird, but there's an ownership that Selena's taking in what she's singing here that I think is really beautiful. I think this is a really beautiful song.
I do too.
I agree. I was just going to say that whether or not this is about specifically Justin Bieber,
which she's kind of indicated it is, right?
Yeah, she has. Yeah, I mean and I mean Barrett would know more about this than me, but he did the research. But yes, she has made comments that make it seem like that's the case. But it's like you said, it's a very just realistic approach to the toxicity of relationships. And assuming this is about Bieber, this is so much more interesting to me than like one of I like Taylor Swift, but this is just so much more interesting to me than some BS like we're never getting back together or
right.
Many of the Taylor Swift songs that have been about exes.
I think like though
this just feels like this is really dark, but it works.
I don't know
because it's just everybody's been here
exactly, and I think like for me, because I watched the music video first this time, if she had a music video that was like a visual of the story of the heartbreak or whatever, I think it would have lost a lot of its potency because this is her just, hey, I'm in front of the camera talking to you guys about what happened. And even though there's not this music video has like not a lot going on with it. It's just her sitting. I
didn't particularly like the music video, but we can talk about that in a second.
The music video was not as compelling. I think that there could have been something else done with it to bring more life into the visual element of it.
I found the visual choices they made in the music video distracting, and if they're trying to be thematic about how a toxic relationship makes you not feel like yourself and get you blurry, then they should have started to bring her into focus consistently through the video.
Right.
So I didn't even feel like the metaphor necessarily worked.
Or just have her looking at the camera the whole time and don't have the effect.
Yeah.
Because I agree with Danae that if you were showing like reenactments of fights and stuff, it would have been just
I think
silly.
It would have lost something. And there's a couple of moments when she just looks straight into the camera when she's talking about getting herself back together, and just the way that she kind of smiles, like you can just see that she's come a long way. And also the lyrics of this are so powerful and deep. Like you said, Jonathan, we've all experienced, or most of us have experienced, some sort of betrayal of relationship, whether it's a friend or a lover, or even sometimes like you can feel this way about jobs, just anything that you care about, that you have you have some kind of a toxic thing that happens and you lose part of yourself and then you find it again. It could be even a passion of yours that fizzles away. Like it doesn't have to even be with anything outside of yourself. There's a lot here, and I like the way that it's sung. I like the way that she delivers it, and I like the way that she's looking into the camera. But then whenever you flip over to the actual video, our sinning video, I'm like, how can this be 3+ minutes? Like there's not like when I hit play on it, I was like, how is this even over 3 minutes? Like what is here? I full on expected it to be like 25 seconds long, just like, there's not a lot going on here, but he managed to pull some fun stuff out. So
yeah, totally. I want to talk about something in between talking about the song itself and the video, because at the end of this beautiful song, as happens on YouTube, the end screen comes up with the other 4 videos, and the song is still going on.
I was so frustrated by that.
And I just want to talk about this for a second, because I know why they do it, because if they wait and do an end screen like you're supposed to do for these kind of things, people just stop playing, and so they go ahead and they put it over the end of the song.
insane.
And it's
insane.
It's rude.
I had to watch really the music video Sin to see the final part. Yeah. Which is fine.
Yeah. I wanted to mention that because I've seen other videos do this as well, where it's like they know that this is going to happen for the last 20 seconds of the video, but they don't put any kind of specific buffer, even though they've got production teams and people who look at this stuff, and they know that they could do that, and that's what you're supposed to do. But they also know they'll get more clicks if they put that stuff over the video.
Not okay.
Yeah, I found that interesting, so I wanted to mention it. Anything about the video itself that we wanted to talk about, the Sins video?
Selena Rebus.
Is that about?
I don't know. But...
Do you know what that is?
Isn't it just because there was multiple, it was there was multiple, it was one of those effects where there was multiples of her coming out of her basically.
Right, but what's the word merger?
Well, rebus, a rebus is a puzzle.
The Selena puzzle.
So the one that I got that was like that was the whole Matrix reference at the very end with the outtakes where it just had all the different,
Isn't a rebus where you do pictures that represent a word?
Maybe I misunderstood this.
So like the word apex, right? That's a word. You'd have a picture of an ape and then the letter X, and that's a rebus. I think that's right.
Yeah, it's a puzzle device that combines the use of illustrated pictures with individual letters to depict words and or phrases.
Yeah.
See, this is part of why I think I'm going to be fired. Your girl can't come up with this kind of stuff.
I just like the wordplay. I'm too basic.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I liked the my testicles were the size of pebbles.
I had that one down. Yeah, that was great.
I love that one because he's honoring that in this moment she's mad and she looks mad and and that's intimidating.
Yeah.
But then to equate that to the shrinking of testicles, which I've never experienced before.
Yeah, what is the female equivalent of that?
I guess. Well, I do have gonads.
Right.
So
You've
I
got
guess
ovaries.
Maybe they
shrinking ovaries.
My shrinking ovaries.
Fair enough.
But I've never been so afraid.
I just don't think women have this issue because let's be honest, they are always the ones in control. So no matter how much we pretend.
Was true.
Yeah. Let's.
That's not true. But I wish it was true. Because then I would have my way of where I want to eat dinner every night.
Well, you're a great husband, Jonathan.
You are great.
That's all I wanted to hear.
The only other I thing, I am misplacing all of my words.
Your cerebrosity.
Yes. The only other thing that I had to mention was the fact that there are 2 Jim Carrey outtakes, which pleased me to no end. I always love. Jim Carrey is just a treasure trove of outtake material, so I enjoyed that.
That is very true. The only other thing I had was, isn't this just code for getting a Brazilian?
Yes.
Which, by the way, was the exact sin that came to my mind when I was watching the video without the sins. And the first time she says that line, I was like, "Oh, a Brazilian," and I was like,
But isn't that fire burning?
Well, in the song, yeah, she says something about fire burning her forest.
That's not how Brazilians work.
No, yes, Danae, thank you. We didn't think you burnt it all.
I just want to make sure you know.
I assume, but it doesn't it feel like fire in your loins?
I can't.
I don't know. Just the idea of getting waxed feels like the equivalent of the idea of somebody ripping something off of your skin.
To save Danae from having to interject on this.
I was just really concerned when I'm like, that's not how that works.
Yeah,
and
no.
I just had this very bad vision that y'all think that you're just going to go into a spa and it's just going to smell like burning pube hair or something.
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. We can move on comfortably now. I know my job here is done.
Fair enough.
Just to go back to waxing, I have to get sometimes my middle brow area.
Yeah.
Just because I get a bit of a unibrow, so I'll get that sometimes waxed off once every few months, and I tears come to my eyes, and it's the tiniest spot.
Yeah, man.
I don't know how people do it. I'm glad I don't have back hair.
I pull a single nose hair and I cry for an hour.
Yeah. Once again, women are stronger. That's all I know.
That I will agree with.
Nice. All right, let's move on to CinemaSins. A couple great videos this week. We'll kick it off with Detective Pikachu. This was an Atkinson Hughes joint. Chris and Danae wrote on this.
Terrifying.
The movie?
No.
Oh, Writing with Chris.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
again, y'all, I'm just.
Oh, I love writing with Chris.
I'm working my way through working with the guys one-on-one, and in the last video, the last movie with Jeremy, and then this one, they were back to back.
Yeah.
And it was just like
so you mean terrifying in the sense of just the intimidation, intimidation aspect of,
I hope to God there's something good for you in here.
I think so.
Yeah, I actually really loved the script, and I really...
Your picture got in there that you mentioned in the Sincast.
I was so shocked. I gave that like a 10% chance. And
I saw some love for it in the comments, too. People were like, I was so hoping someone would show how ridiculous that is.
And I think somebody had listened to the Sincast as well. It was like, it made it! And I'm like, yeah! So, it was this one was a lot of fun. I loved working with Chris. I feel like
you could sell the original artwork now for dollars.
Yeah,
maybe tens of dollars.
Tens of dollars. Maybe we can put it on a mug.
Yeah. Yes. Something like that.
What did you guys think of it?
Well, let's talk about the movie first.
Can we?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually really like this movie.
Me too.
And I know it got a lot of flack, and a lot of it is deserved, and a lot of the stuff we talk about in the Sins video is legitimate.
Sure.
I totally get that stuff.
I mean, I looked on Rotten Tomatoes. It got pretty decent reviews, though.
Yeah. I think the charm of Ryan Reynolds, even when he's voice only, is just unbeatable.
It's second to none.
It really is.
He has this way of but limiting his snarky R-ratedness to go into Pikachu.
Did they limit it though?
They did, because a lot of his stuff didn't make it. I had a lot of research in this one, so.
So my love for Ryan Reynolds is known. I have loved him since Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. I fell in love with him immediately in that show and was so glad he became a thing because he deserves it.
I'm going to go ahead and just one-up you there. I watched him on the Nickelodeon Canadian soap opera 15. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I watched his mother give birth.
I watched him be conceived. I don't know how I can top that one.
Dang it.
I watched this movie for the first time last night because I wanted to have something to talk about on the show.
Well, you're fresh.
Let me preface this by saying I know nothing about Pokemon. I assume Aaron maybe. Well, Aaron has kids though, but like that are old enough. My daughter's never gotten into it. I was too old when it became a thing. So I did not like this at all, but I don't know if I was really into Pokemon, if I would like it more. I don't know. But
I will say
I honestly didn't know what the hell was going on.
Oh, interesting.
80% of the time. I mean, I knew generally what they were trying to accomplish, but I think there were a lot of things I just didn't get. I didn't really particularly enjoy the action. But I did think Ryan Reynolds was great. I mean, as Ryan Reynolds always is. I thought it was weird that every main character in this movie is a kid, but they're not kids. They have they're reporters.
Yeah, right.
And insurance agents. but they're kids. They're maybe 19.
I know.
I thought that was really weird. I was happy, though, that Catherine Newton, who, of course, everyone knows as Claire Novak from 3 seasons of Supernatural.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, that's what they thought. I was really glad to see she got a meaty role in this movie. She was great as Catherine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just didn't know. I just really couldn't get into this.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I'm sorry to say.
I had a different experience.
Yeah, I did too. I don't know a lot about Pokemon. Everything I know about Pokemon is because I wrote Sins on the original Pokemon Sins video we did.
Hey, this was better than that movie.
Yeah, that movie was rough.
But both open on Mewtwo.
Yeah, and that actually informed a lot of my knowledge on kind of what was going on here. But it was fascinating to me because I thought they did a pretty good job. Here's the other thing. My understanding is this is a different Pokemon world than we've seen in other Pokemon stuff. The Pokemon and humans living together kind of thing isn't necessarily somewhere it has gone. They've always been subservient.
Interesting.
They've always been a part of the battles, you own your Pokemon. They are that was kind of the whole thing. And so I think almost sociologically they had to take it to this different place where it was let's not do the subservience thing. That's, not a great look.
And kind of create this utopia.
Create this kind of, and I kind of liked the utopia. I kind of was like, oh, these creatures are adorable. They're cute. They're interesting. This movie to me was just a good hang. Like, if you start to think about it a lot, obviously it falls apart. A lot of this just falls apart, like steak that's been in the crock pot too long. Like, it is
but isn't
in pieces.
That good whenever it falls apart?
It's good with the steak. It's bad with the movie.
Oh, gotcha.
And I will say it wasn't anywhere near because this was a big summer release too, and it was pretty impressive to see the budget they put behind it.
Yeah, it looked good.
Yeah, it did. It did look good. The effects are pretty good, and it was not by any means anywhere close to being the worst movie of the summer.
No.
I think what made this movie work was Ryan Reynolds, and also the kid that is the main lead. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. If you want to look it up, Aaron. I know we don't do research on this show, but I would like to give him a shout out. I thought he did a really good job. There's a couple of moments where
it's Justice Smith.
Yeah, Justice
who, by
Smith.
the way, if you haven't seen Netflix's show that Baz Luhrmann did, he's the lead in that, and he's great in that too.
Yeah, I thought that he really held his own because, again, you're acting to imagination. A lot of times there's not really people there. It's a Pikachu there. And so I think he did a really good job of
The Get Down is the name of that show.
Of carrying the lead of this. So I don't know. I had a really good time. I didn't expect to have a good time. I kind of went in expecting this was going to be terrible. So I had to put my Sinan hat on, but then I also had to put on my research hat because I was really, really going to do my best to try to not mess this up for the fans, knowing that no matter how much research I did, we were going to throw some things in there
battle, Danae.
that people, and I knew that going in, but I wanted to at least try. And so
not me. When I send the original Pokemon one, I was like, narrator's going to be stupid in this one.
Yeah.
He's not going to know
this
anything.
One, I wanted Jeremy to have a couple of moments where he sounded like he might know what he's talking about, but do it through the lens of his cousins.
Yes, that was great. That was a good choice.
I like that he had a bunch of cousins named James.
Yes.
Like they're all just James.
There was William and James. Who
was there a William too? Oh, I thought there was one where he said I thought there were two James. I somehow screwed that up in my head.
Which, by the way, are more Discord peeps.
Yeah,
so
hang out on Discord. Get your name in a Sins video.
Our fans on the Discord. So I think that was to Schadenfreude and Metalhead. Which, by the way, I'm not playing favorites or anything. It's just these are people that I've had the most interaction with so far. And as time goes on, I've just to do like a quick update. I've had lots of requests since making that comment last week, including one to include a dog named Cheddar. So
if you see a dog named Cheddar, you'll know where that came from. No, I think it's fun. I think it's cool that you can do that stuff.
I did want to try to figure out, like, okay, so even in the movie they're saying like this Magikarp or whatever shouldn't do this. So like, how do you try to pay fan service even though obviously the narrator doesn't know anything about Pokemon?
As we move into the video itself, or the Sins stuff, props to Jeremy on pronunciations and all that kind of stuff. There was one that we had to read. We had to redub Gyrocarp or
the Gyarados
or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was my bad. I accidentally sent him Gyarados instead of Gyarados.
I think it was
Gyarados.
Gyarados.
But I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I had my O and my E flip-flopped.
He nailed this stuff.
Yeah, he did
and
great.
it's not an easy world to live in necessarily. So he did a good job. I loved thoughts and prayers to the parents.
Thanks.
About the finger line.
Yeah.
that Ryan Reynolds said. I thought that was funny. Obviously, Care Bear Onion Lizard is one of the funniest.
It's the hero of this one.
Yeah, that is really, really funny. The Pornkemon thing was hilarious, and
I had that written down. Yeah.
Hilarious because what in the world? What is that hole? Why is there a Pokemon butthole on the screen? Like,
well, let's talk about that.
Yes, please. You researched this? Did you type Pokemon butthole into your Google?
Basically.
Okay. How'd that go for you?
It was interesting. So from what I understand, that is like a speaker needs to have a hole for the sound to come out.
Oh my goodness. That is a vacuum release hole because it's a speaker Pokemon. Oh wow. That's amazing.
And based on the Pornkemon was funny to me too, because based on what a story my sister told me one time about my nephew when he was younger losing internet privileges. there apparently is a lot of Porkemon out there.
Oh no!
Well, this was a fun one because when I wrote that particular part, I was like, I specifically sent it in going, this needs something else. Like I don't have it.
Yeah,
and
sometimes you just can't find the punchline. And we are in an environment where there are other people who find punchlines. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so in this one...
By the way, stand-up comedians do this for each other, too. Did you know this? They call it tags, I think. Or, like, hey, can you give me a tag on this story? Or, yeah, they will share with each other and stuff.
Well, it's certainly helpful in a way to kind of go, I'm just going to volley this out. Here's, like, the idea. Please... it's either going to go somewhere or it's going to go to the can. It doesn't matter either way, but here's the idea. And that particular one, Chris nailed. Mm-hmm. We actually went back and forth on, but so the idea is there and Chris did the detect I peek to shoot and I just died. When I got that email back where he had put it in there, I was like, oh my God, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So
shout out to Sinsworth.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you put that in there?
I did.
Because I just made that up on Discord.
I know. I saw there was a conversation about everybody having a sentient, but
right.
like each channel having a different...
Each channel has their own sentient, yeah.
So I threw it in there thinking, well, I wonder if this is going to be something that they want to go with or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it worked.
That's funny.
So that was kind of a fun one.
That's hilarious. What else? Anything else from the Sins video you guys wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I liked the term jewel-toned prismatic nightmare.
Yes,
Thanks.
that was nice.
How horrible of a place would that be?
Yeah. I like that you think horrifying. Specifically, Danae has done this from the very beginning. You call out movies and TV shows on their lighting choices more than any of the rest of us. Like you are so aware.
Really?
Yes. Like you are so aware of blinding lights and these are all aesthetic choices that they're making on a production level.
Right.
So it looks a certain way. And you're like, but it shouldn't look that way.
I just want to know who wants to live in an apartment where every single window has a different jewel tone color blindingly coming through.
Right,
like, who wants that?
Yeah. Did you do the blackout curtains in this one too?
Yes, I did.
See, I'm just telling you, you have this thing about lighting.
Who wants to walk upstairs to nothing but bright light? Like you couldn't even see. Anyway, sorry.
And I don't remember specifically where this is in the video, but for some reason I wrote down, where's his dick? How does he pee?
That was me.
Yeah, that's at the beginning of the video. Yeah.
Okay, there's 3. I know there's 2 that start off this one that were mine. I'm really proud of. I actually did the sinning of all of the logos this one. That was a me one.
Oh, that was a really cool logo
on this
sin.
I did.
Is that your first logo sin that got in? Nice.
Yeah. I was pretty proud of that one.
That's a big day in a CinemaSins writer.
I know.
Career.
I know. I
got your logo sin.
I also did the heroic hang. And so when the guy is hanging out the window at the very end of the movie and he's hanging on for dear life.
Oh, is that where we had to have Jeremy whistle because we wanted to show how long he was out there?
Yeah. So that was really fun too. It was a group effort, which is one of the reasons I liked that one, is because, you want to sort of show how quote unquote unrealistic it is for someone to hang. And although I did do research and discovered that people can hang for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Hanging on shards of glass, probably not. Hanging one hand increases it. And it was for a pretty long time. And so I thought how fun it would be to like, hey, start the clock and then actually fast forward through part of the show and sort of see how that worked out. And when I saw it in the editing process, I was like, this is really close. But there was nothing but silence underneath it. And it really killed the vibe. So then we were either going to cut it. And then I suggested, well, should he just like whistle like he's waiting? And then we just sort of went with that. So that was really fun.
The only other thing I had written down was that, and I wanted to bring this up, was because while I was watching the movie, and I had obviously not watched the video yet, I kept thinking, like, why does he have to keep watching his father's, like, death tape?
Right?
Like, I thought that was, I'm so glad you guys brought that up. Because
Thank you.
I was like, how many people are going to show this kid how his father died? Like, who would do that?
Right?
Ever?
Yeah.
There's no reason to do that. Like, there's nothing that they showed him couldn't have been told to him. It was just absolutely insane. He has like no reaction to it either. He's just like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. I thought that was really odd.
Yeah, it really
and especially
was.
in a kid's movie.
Yeah. I think before we move on, there was a couple of things that I wanted to address. One was in the comments, I noticed that with the mime, the sin is like he's opening up a can. So why isn't this can related? Mm-hmm. And then it was explained to me in the comments, and then I was like, oh, I get it now. So it's kind of like one of those moments where he was saying you can shove it.
Right.
And I totally missed that. And apparently so did anybody in the process of like looking at it because I did not understand that it was that literal. You know, usually mimes, you kind of like create some sort of visual story. But as it was explained by the Pokemon super nerds, he just does like
it was
word
more of a rebus.
Okay. What was that word again? So that was kind of a fun one where I was like, okay, I got you. There was also a lot of Poke Nerds, and I say that with love because I love all of the nerds and all of the geeks of all of the world. About the whole Pokemon missing sign. I was really bothered by this because it's like, even if there's a Pokemon that's missing out in this world and you put up a picture of them and call 555-1123 or whatever. Yeah. And you say, hi, my name is Danae and I'm missing my Lickitung. They're like, what does it look like? Like a Lickitung. What does it sound like? It says Lickitung. Like, there's no way to have this be helpful. Right. Unless the missing Pokemon has lost its person and is trying to find its person. Right. So in the comments, there's all this like, you know, the missing sign works because it you know, and also like, but I'm like, no, it doesn't work if you think about it. And I just wanted to kind of
standing behind
my little soapbox.
No, I think
moment.
I'm with you. I thought it was funny because a lot of people did the "that's racist" thing for that sin, which is hilarious because that is so funny.
Brilliant.
But no, I think you can stand behind that sin. That makes sense to me.
I only had one more that I was really proud of, and I mean this with all my heart. They survived this. I really like that one a lot.
Nice. Very nice. Let's move on to one of Danae's favorite movies of all time, Hocus Pocus. So this was an Atkinson share joint. Kristen Barrett wrote on this. No, I say that half kidding, but I know you've said you really enjoy this movie. So why don't you kick us off? What are your thoughts on the movie Hocus Pocus?
Well, first of all, I didn't know if this one was going to get posted or not. Because this is one of those where, as a team, going into Halloween, we wanted to have a couple of options just in case one couldn't go out or whatever. Right. And so I didn't know which one was actually going to go out. So when I saw Hocus Pocus, I got so excited.
Yeah, this was the backup. Yeah, is basically what it was.
But I wanted it to be the front up because it's just like, you know, so much of us love
it. Totally works.
Hocus Pocus, and so like just to see that it's so culturally relevant, like everyone's, it's like it's the
and they just
Halloween
announced
movie.
a sequel, which is in the Sins video. I was afraid it wasn't going to be in the Sins video because it was so
recent.
Can I
tell you about that?
Yeah, did it happen during editing or what? Like
it did. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It literally happened during the final edit. So Barrett sent me that, and we had Jeremy put the holy shit in, and I added that in at the end.
I wondered about that because it's happened to Chris before. He talks about this all the time. He'll schedule something because he doesn't think they're ever going to do, because we like to tentpole stuff when they do sequels, and then the moment it's scheduled or ready, they announce a sequel to it, which I think is hilarious how often that happens.
Oops.
And I mean, this is a really interesting movie because, I mean, I saw this in the theater in 93, came out in the summer of 93 too, which is kind of odd. But I guess they thought it was going to be a big hit, and it wasn't. Like, in fact, it was quite the opposite of a big hit. And I remember at the time thinking it was okay. Like, I remember thinking at the time, like, well, it's a lot better than it did at the box office. Like, but I've watched it a bunch since because my daughter's gotten into it and so on and so forth. And I don't know. I like it less every time I watch it. I mean, there's things in it. I get why people enjoy it. And I get why it's kind of a fun movie to watch around Halloween because it's a good one to watch like with children. But I just personally don't think it's a very good movie. But I know a lot of people love it. So
yeah, I really.
I'm not here to trash it.
And I think the reason that I liked it a lot was there's music. So
that's the key to Danae's heart.
I love music.
How would they know that song though?
Don't ask questions. Just accept it. But I think the other, as I was trying to figure out why I love it so much after watching the Sins video and realizing how terrible it is that it's kind of one of the first times I personally saw a witch displayed in this sort of fun, loving, laughter, silly, goofy way.
There's still bad guys in this movie, though, right?
It was just endearing in a different way.
They're child murderers,
right? Yeah.
Yes, but you don't think about
and
that.
Torturers.
Well, just today's over here. Like first time I saw a witch in such a fun, interesting,
no,
loving
witches
kind
are
of way.
terrible. but they're usually portrayed as like these evil, dark, disgusting, like, you know, like
so you like
their eyes are
like
dead, and they're just very clearly like the bad guys. In this case, they're pretty
evil.
They are, but their personalities are fun and goofy.
Well, they're PG-ified. They're PG-ified.
They're fun and goofy.
Yeah.
Like, you can't watch this and say they're not being fun and goofy. They're being fun and goofy. They're evil.
I guess
but
I should say.
Listen, if you play D&D, these people are probably chaotic evil. You know, they are evil, but there's this fantastical side of it that I just don't remember having seen before this movie. And so this is the first time I was drawn to liking witches.
This felt very much like a Disney movie, like a live action Disney movie that came out in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this was whatever their like CW-esque outline, you know, rules were. I think this movie followed it to a T. And I mean, there's good performance in this. I will say Vanessa Shaw, that played the main girl, she's like 2 months older than me in real life. I'm younger than me in real life, so I very well might have had a Vanessa Shaw pillow back in 1993.
Did you cuddle up with your pillow while thinking about her?
She was quite she was quite fetching. So I don't know. I get. I mean, I can watch it and I can get like why people enjoy it. I just don't think I get that same enjoyment out of it, especially after seeing it multiple times.
I have never seen it. Not a second of it. This was my first experience with Hocus Pocus, which is rare for me to watch a Sins video for a movie I haven't seen. It's a totally different experience. Like, it's really fascinating.
Yeah, because you're trying to figure out what the movie is about.
Yeah.
To almost like understand what the sin is about, because there's context to it that you don't necessarily just know.
And I think it is true that if you have seen the movie or TV show we're sinning, you will enjoy our video more. But it is also true that you can definitely still enjoy it if you haven't, because I had a blast watching the Sins video. I thought it was really funny, really well done. The added element when you haven't seen something is you are taken aback by the scenes that you're seeing them for the first time. So you're like, was this really in a movie?
Like the child death?
Yes. Yeah. Like all that stuff. I was just like, oh, wow. So there is that added thing that happens if you haven't seen the content that's being sent, that you don't get to experience. But so I had that with this. There were several of those moments in the video. It didn't look like a movie I want to see. I feel like I saw enough.
Yeah.
Like I got.
I mean, it's very much like Disney movies at that time. Like it feels like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
Like it's very much.
Yeah.
It's very much in that exact same. Vein.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. We ready to talk about the Sins?
Let's do it.
I had a lot here. Children are not weed. Made me really laugh. She's inhaling the child. I thought that was wonderful. Do you remember Yabbos? I wanted to ask you guys, do you remember breasts ever being called Yabbos in the early 90s? Danae?
I mean, no.
Interesting. I definitely 100% do. That was definitely a thing that our junior high brains called breasts.
Yeah. To me, the sin was like, I was like, well, I mean, people have been calling boobs all kinds of different things. So it's
Let's
not
talk about all the things that people have been calling boobs.
That would be your keeping tabs.
Let's go with
episode.
Knockers, cans, melons.
You did it. Oh my God, Aaron. Jaboom booms.
Gazongas. Milk duds.
The girls.
Bitty ditties.
The twins.
Sweater puppies. That was always one of my favorites.
Flippity floppers.
Well, it was either sweater puppies or sweater muffins, depending on the size.
Listen, you guys are actually talking about all the things that are actually spoken. I continue to make them up on the fly.
That's true. My favorite go-to is chesticles. That was always, for whatever reason, the one that made me laugh the most. Mm-hmm. So, what about you, Jonathan?
It reminds you of icicles, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I don't know. I do know that sweater puppies always made them sound creepy, like they were going to bite you.
Yes.
Or nip at you or something.
Well, they do nip. They definitely do nip. That is definitely something that happens.
I left myself open. Yeah.
Jonathan, why don't you talk about some of the stuff that you loved from the video?
Oh my God. This was a really fun one to work on. Calling a road a river. That was really funny for some reason to me. Like, that kept standing out. Mm-hmm. The bullies are like Saturday Night Live, talking about Saturday Night Live, they did a sketch one time where it was like the Disney Channel School of Acting, basically. That's all I could think of watching, like, especially that one guy, the blonde-haired guy, not Ice, but the other bully.
Yeah.
Just like how just over the top he was with like everything he said.
That still happens, man. You watch the bullies in Shazam. Watch the bullies in, like,
that's true.
It's crazy how over the top bullies are still.
How casually horny Sarah Jessica Parker's character is. I thought that was a really funny scene.
There's a lot of horniness in this Sins video. There's the vacuum cleaner joke, which is hilarious.
That's one of my favorites.
Because
can I tell you why that's one of my favorites?
Sure, yeah.
Because the comments, if there's all these beautiful, there's 3 or 4 comment chains where it says, "Winnie, I'm coming," and then like I died laughing or whatever the person said, and then underneath it about 6 or 7 people, "Oh, I get it now," like just all that, and then just this sort of like uproarious laughter.
That joke is preceded by the phallic-shaped object between her legs.
Yes.
And then he says the phrase at the end, "Well, off they get," which I just thought was hilarious in so many ways. So yeah, there's a lot of that stuff in here.
Yeah, the Eyes Wide Shut style orgy going on.
Yeah.
That was obviously a joke, but it was still very much in the same vein. Also, Jerry, this is why we only give you the Halloween night shift.
Yes, I loved that one.
Can I tell you the joke that I thought was legit was the Mel Gibson joke? That is a great joke. The joke about taking a while to become evil or whatever, and it's like Voldemort and whatever, and then ends with Mel Gibson. That's a legit great rule of threes joke. So whoever wrote that, just well crafted. Bravo, if nothing else.
I agree.
I also loved the clock, the 3:05, and the realization that they just used the same establishing shot but did it day for night, and they kind of show them side by side and how it's the exact same shot. And like you were talking about, Danae, continuity stuff. I love those kind of jokes.
I was really impressed with that.
Right.
And then somebody in the comments said that if you read the books, Jeremy, you would know that it does happen at 3 o'clock in the morning.
There wasn't another establishing shot of that school they could have done the day for night with. I mean, that was the weird thing about it.
Yeah.
Like, they had other shots of the school.
Yeah. I want to call those Bass Pro jokes. Can we call those Bass Pro jokes?
Why?
Sure.
Because you asked the writer, like, have you been to Bass Pro because you just made a great catch? Like something like that. Like,
wah, wah.
Listen,
wah, wah.
I'm just trying to name our jokes. We've got Starfish jokes, and now we've got Bass Pro jokes.
I like the one that they were confounded by like paved roads, but they instantly know how to use a microphone as backup singers.
Yeah.
That drove me nuts. And also, they were put into this room that was like a kiln room, and then they were closed into the room with kiln, and then I guess they turned up the heat and burned, like essentially just burned them. Right? Is that what happened?
I think you're talking to the person who hasn't seen the movie at all. So
it's been a long time. But there was a radio in the kiln room, which would also not be there if it was a kiln room because kilns melt stuff. Anyways, was it
a kiln room or a killing room?
Hey,
those are two different things, or in this case, maybe the same thing.
Let's move on. Too many puns are happening.
All right. It was a good week in videos. We can move on. Let's do some keeping tabs.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
Ha ha! Oh, jeez.
This is the most public yet of my many humiliations.
Let's take a look at the process of writing this stuff, putting this stuff together. Could be a Google search, strange research you did, deleted sin, whatever the case may be. I really don't have a lot. I did write on both the TV sins, but there wasn't a lot of stuff that I had to do this week. I will say I researched, I guess I'll do this for mine. I researched the age difference rule for the sin about whether or not Ross really was. Yeah, the half plus 7 rule, which I've heard for a while. How do you guys feel about the half plus 7 rule? Does it make sense to you?
I've never heard
of
that.
It before.
I've never been in an inappropriate relationship, so I've never had to worry about it.
It kind of works for every age. Like it's an interesting rule, but like if somebody's 15, half plus 7 is 14 and a half. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like it works if if you're 90, half plus 7 is 52. Okay.
I mean, I think it works when you're younger. When you get a little older, though, like I think the difference there's like I mean, there's obviously a huge difference between like 15 and 22, but there's not as big of a difference between 45 and 52. Does that make sense? You know?
Well, yeah. Well, that's why the half plus 7 rule works as well as it does, because it's first just does the half.
Maybe I'm not understanding. Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I did that wrong.
Yeah, 7.
I did my math wrong.
Yeah, 7. It's not just saying 7 years apart. That it's saying you do the half plus 7 thing. So, anyways, I kind of did some research on that, and people just I couldn't find anybody who disagreed with the rule. People just kind of accept it. That's the rule, half plus 7, and that's what we go by in our culture. And I was just like, that's fascinating to me. So, anyways, that's really all I kind of looked up. So,
I had some research on the early stages of the internet based on the Friends episode when Joey was talking about getting onto Chandler's computer and looking at porn. Mm-hmm. I was really trying to figure out how to sin that. Like, how am I gonna, what am I gonna do here? Was this the script that I wrote a ton on?
Yes. Okay. We should say that. We should have said that during this. This is a Danae script. I wrote like 5 sins on that front. I was like, oh, Danae had 50 sins. They're all great.
Yeah.
No, we've got one coming up where like we ended up using it was like 90% Aaron stuff.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. Me and him
did recently. Yeah, for sure.
But I remember there was several times that I was going off on these research things, and then I'd come up with 3 or 4 sins for each one of them. One of them was just my knowledge that I learned about the early ages of the internet. That was really fun.
I lived it, Danae. You could have just called me.
No, didn't want to. Hey, Aaron, doing some research for this one. Tell me, what was porn like?
Yeah, no, fair point. You make a fair point. No, yeah, I can tell you about the internet.
But I did learn about, frame rates and how things loaded, but what was really interesting, so this is where my keeping tabs research kind of sent me. I mean, I looked up robots because there was a robot zing in there, and which, by the way, just to go back, I really love the reference to Johnny Five, by the way. That was
looks so much like Johnny Five.
Yeah, it was great. I can't believe I missed that one. That was so fun. Was that there is still, if you want to know what the old internet looked like, the Space Jam website has never changed. It's still up, and you can go look it up.
I'm doing this right now,
and it looks just like the old internet. So if you want to know what it looks like, look up the Space Jam website. And I also found this really funny GIF of the internet loading, circa 1999, and it just loads basically line by line across from the top down, and then it freezes halfway through.
Oh, wow. That is amazing.
I know, right?
That is incredible.
It looks like GeoCities or something.
Yeah, that's great. Spacejam.com. Check it out for yourself.
The other fun thing was when I was looking up the robot information for this one, for the crazy robot that was running, this was a real reveal by Sony in 2000. And that website where I found that information also still looks the exact same as it did in 2000. I think it was archived as is. So that was CNN.com, / all these different things just of what was going on. But it was just fun because it really was a trip back in time to see the old ways of the internet.
Oh, man.
So
was this the one where you wrote something about being charged per minute?
Yes.
And I was like, I do not remember that, because I remember when we got AOL, it was like $19.99 a month or whatever it was. It could have been like $39.99 a month, but I thought it was just a monthly charge. But I could have been wrong. I mean, obviously, I wasn't paying the bill, so I would live with my parents. But
this is certainly a rabbit trail. But it is fascinating to me to think how AOL was the proto Facebook, and they were just ahead of their time, because and now Facebook doesn't charge, but I think a lot of this has to do with net neutrality, right? The idea that the internet is a free service that's accessible, to put stuff on. But AOL was like a gated community where that was your internet presence was there, and it's fascinating for me to think how the internet has evolved and grown, and how it's changed.
It's fascinating to think that people still have dial-up internet, because they totally do.
Fascinating.
It's interesting because sometimes these scripts, I feel like some of the time that I spend on scripts could be shortened in these moments where I kind of go off on a bunny trail and learn something, but I really love learning stuff. And going back into like the early stages of the internet and reading like Reddit threads about what was the internet like for you when it first came out, and reading all these different experiences of people and how they had to pay, like you had to go on during certain times of the day to avoid having big fees. And people popping in and being like, that's exactly what it was like for me, you know, da 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 da. And then you would start a download of like a music that you liked, and it would take all day long. So you would leave in the morning for school, you'd come back and it would have downloaded one song for you. But if your line was interrupted, you had to start all over again.
Oh man, I remember that. And I remember in college, I remember sitting in the computer lab trying to get Ain't It Cool News to load up with like movie, you know, news and that kind of stuff. If there was like
watch trailers.
Yeah, if there was a trailer or a photo, I would bring my homework and I would just do homework while that stuff, you know, loaded up.
So because I was gonna say, I don't remember. I didn't try to download porn, but I do remember trying to get music or trailers were the big thing. Like, I was kind of like, I would do the same thing you did. I would bring a book or something.
Yeah, so concludes the we're old portion of the podcast.
I think everybody knows we're all in our 70s. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, and just think about like, and then when we got like the what was like the next stage? It was the cable, I guess, just the cable. I mean, but they had a name for it, but I don't know. But anyways, like the next step up. I mean, I remember us thinking like that was just so fast, and you didn't have to be connected to a phone line and, you know, use your phone line to get online. But that would probably be slow as dirt now too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how much it's changed.
What about you, Jonathan? Did you have anything for keeping tabs?
No, yeah, I was kind of like Aaron. The only thing I really looked up, there was a sin we didn't talk about in Bates Motel where I compared a prequel to, and I was just trying to find some like weird version of something to compare it to, and I came up with Who News, which are these like vitamin cookies.
Yeah.
And they have like an Oreo version. So I wrote a sin along the lines of like, let me see, I can actually tell you what the sin was. The time jumps in a prequel feel like finding actual Oreos in a package of Who News. Maybe I'm just being ornery and a little dumb, but welcome to TV. But yeah, so I just did some research on Who News to see if there was anything I wanted to use. But it was basically just to discover that they were a super gross vitamin, mineral, and fiber fortified cookie.
Sounds so yummy.
People eat. And there were all these articles written like in 2011 and 2012 about. I guess they were advertising themselves as nutritionally rich cookies. So
fascinating.
You know, like so kind of like, you know, what is now what you would see on Twitter. I mean, a bunch of people tried to go on a witch hunt, like trying to find out, are these really nutritionally valuable?
Yeah.
And is this really better than eating vegetables and fruit? And it's like, of course it's not. It's a fucking cookie. But people wrote about it. So this was like clickbait in 2011.
Well, you know what I said when I found out those cookies exist?
What?
Oh, no.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew?
I didn't know.
I don't even know why they're called that.
That's got to be the reason.
The NU is nutritional.
They're called that just so Aaron.
Just
for that joke.
They knew I was going to be
I think it's supposed to be like whole nutritional, something along, and they just shortened it.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew?
Yep.
All right.
But that was about all I did.
Let's move on.
No, I have another one. You can't go on without me.
What? You already did one.
I know.
All right, go for it. Go for it today.
I just want everyone to know I really did look up what people did to stick their finger in Pokemon Pikachu. I needed to understand that reference. It took me 4 or 5 searches to figure out what that was referencing. And apparently there's like little finger puppets, which makes sense. But it took me a while.
It is a line that it is hard to come up with the context in your brain. And you're just like, where did that line come from?
I know. So that's
it's
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I'm like, who would put their finger in Pikachu? What does this mean? Is that like...
Well, it involves a finger being stuck in, so...
Right. This is a kid's movie, man.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It was because there's toys. There's Pikachu toys.
Well, I'm glad you did the research, but that is not obvious in the film.
Thoughts and prayers to you, Aaron.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And it is a kid's film, but they I guess technically, but they also kind of wanted it to be like an MCU movie or something, and so they just
yeah, MCU movies are getting there too. Like Peter talking about his web shooter and all that stuff in the latest Spider-Man movie.
But they did do that in the comics too, because he's a high school kid,
right?
And he's
totally.
So, a lot of that is. That makes sense, totally. But I don't know.
Can we move on now, Danae?
Yes, okay, sorry, but bye, everybody, sorry.
I can't imagine what you were typing into your Google, though, to get to that point.
Detective Pikachu movie. What did Pikachu mean when finger stuck in? And then there's like Reddit threads about like, this is the most like R-rated moment of the movie. It was still funny, but no one's linking to anything specific. Yeah. So then I had to be like, Pikachu toys, finger.
I'm going to see what's going on in Jam Central at spacejam.com.
I'm going to move us on to the comments section.
Let's do it.
I want to know what you're thinking.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
We're each going to pick a comment, or two if you're Danae, or three if you're Danae, to respond to from the week's videos. We'll also include some general feedback here as well that you can get to us behindthesinnspod@gmail.com if you want to send us a question. What are some of the comments you love? Danae, since you've got three, go ahead and throw one at us.
You mentioned one earlier about the Pokemon all looking the same and that's racist. So I'll skip over that one. My other favorite one that was from the comment section of Detective Pikachu was all of the people. I just picked the one from Ratchet 1-2, and it was Yellow Squirrel. Sir, it's a mouse. But there were so many different variations of people like raging about calling
misnaming
Pikachu a squirrel.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because I remember when we were in the same space with the guys and they're talking about like the beginning of CinemaSins and that an element of it is to sort of troll the audience. I feel like this is the perfect example of an intentional trolling.
Well, obviously we did that purposefully. I don't know how, and I think those people know that. I think they're having fun.
It's so funny because they're like this one I think is like Yellow Squirrel, sir, it's a mouse.
Yeah, he knows.
But then there's people that were literally just like, I can't believe you didn't know it was a like it, and they're just really having a hard time. So I don't know. I really giggled a lot through all of that because awesome. It was just a really fun example of a successful trolling on our part, I suppose.
This comes from Natty Rain. And this was also the Pikachu video. Maybe you should tell your Pokenut cousin William that the kick evolve from Magikarp to Gyarados is a reference to James in the original series of the anime. Also giving into obvious comment bait to improve this video's engagement stats by CinemaSins triggering real Pokenuts. Ding. I loved that comment because it addresses so many things, which you were just talking about how kind of like the purposeful trolling and that kind of stuff.
But surprisingly, first of all, I'm really glad that my Pokenuts thing is taking off because they're embracing that they're Pokenuts. That was really fun for me.
Yeah.
But second,
I dare you to Google Pokenuts.
No, but I really did a lot of research on that Magikarp thing, and I was surprised that it got some of the heat that it got because there's only one part in the entire series. There's one episode where the Magikarp evolves after being kicked. But everybody else that was like freaking out is
but of course everybody knows that one.
You had to grind through like 20 levels to get the Magikarp to evolve to a Gyarados or whatever.
And of course the sin's going to be so great if you also add that, like if you try to explain that there's one episode where it happens.
Exactly, which is why I didn't include that. And I also blamed it on quote unquote William the cousin.
That's right.
So we're sending William in that one and I can just kind of like bow out.
What about you, Jonathan? What's a comment you found?
I don't know. This one stood out to me for some reason. It's very short and sweet, but I think I don't know. Sunil Permal, sure, said about Hocus Pocus, the CG cat is still better than the baby from Twilight. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough. I think you're right.
And the baby from what was American Sniper? Is that the one with Bradley Cooper where he's like obviously comforting a doll? Like it's one of the most obvious fake baby moments of all time.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, and it's like that's such a serious movie too, and it's kind of hard not to laugh in that moment. You're like, what are you doing?
No, that's fun. Yes. What else you got today?
I agree.
My next one came from which one was it where the worry is a misuse of imagination? Was that Friends?
I don't know.
Selena Gomez.
No, it was actually one that I wrote.
Well, it had to be Friends then. That's the only. I mean, it was either Friends or Pikachu.
And I
don't know. I'm going to go behind the jam while you.
Is it about cookies? Is it about cookies, Danae?
No, it is not about cookies. This one comes from Blue Blue. Worry is a misuse of imagination. Is that a real quote or a joke? I just got dope ass YouTube show. I liked this one. I liked bringing up this one. This one was one of mine where I was like, don't they know that worry is a misuse of imagination, kind of triggering the anxiety, kind of an idea. And it is an actual quote. This is not Danae came up with something.
Right.
This is one of my favorite quotes because the first time I heard it, I realized that a lot of times whenever you start to imagine all of the possibilities, you can kind of trigger yourself into worrying about things that you don't need to worry about. I am probably going to struggle with this for the rest of my life because that's just kind of part of my personality. I like to think about all the possibilities to sort of prepare myself for anything good or bad that could happen. And so I end up spending a lot of time in my head preparing for the emotional whatever is going to happen next.
Yeah.
And when I heard this quote for the first time, it really kind of jarred me out of that a little bit. And so I'm getting better and better at not imagining crazy things. I try to imagine things that are less crazy, more realistic.
It's also possible, that the imagination isn't the only culprit, too. Part of the culprit is our own tendency towards pessimism or optimism, right? Like you can have...
I thought I was an optimistic person.
Right.
Turns out I'm not. That's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I don't know that anybody is. Let's be honest. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking about applying to the Optimist Club, but I don't think I'd make it.
Wow.
So, but yeah, no, it is one of those things
Rare form. Dicer. Rare form.
No, but honestly, it is one of those things where there is that element to it of, yes, I can imagine all these things, but I think the good stuff's going to happen. That is part of it. It's the human psyche is not something I could ever fully understand, but
I just wanted to make sure that I didn't take full credit for that one.
Yeah.
That one was definitely not me. That was, you know what? I had it pulled up and then I searched for someone named Ed Gein.
Yeah. Well, in that case, it was more than worry that was a misuse of Ed Gein's imagination. There were quite a bit of misuses of that man's imagination. That is for sure. The only other one I wanted to mention.
I found it.
Who was it?
Dan Zadra.
Dan Zadra.
He was an author.
Wow.
Okay.
Nice quote, Dan. Kita Bernanzo, I think, gave me a shout out, said, referring to this show as Days of Our Knives from this day on. Thank you, CinemaSins.
That was good.
Nice.
And what I love about that is I legit think she will. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where I actually gave somebody the verbiage that they're going to take into their life and use it in reference. So that always makes me happy. I enjoy that kind of stuff. So anything else in the comments section?
The only other thing I will mention is that Taylor Clayton said about Bates Motel, I love this show, I loved the movie, and I love this channel, so I'm conflicted. So are we most weeks. So,
and you don't have to be.
You're not alone. Yeah, you don't have to be. Just enjoy them all.
All things can be true. All things can be true.
All things can be true.
Here's our question of the week. Says, hi, friend. A cancer widow died and left her fund the sum of $4.3 million US dollars in our bank account without next of kin. With my position in the bank, I will be able to bring this fund to your bank account successfully, but you have a role to play. Sharing will be 30% for you and 70% for me. Am waiting for your urgent answer. Help me stand as foreigner. Best regard, Mr. Gabriel Fofana, Foreign Remittance Assistant Director of BOA Bank.
I didn't know if you knew this, Aaron. I didn't know if you knew this, but that's a scam.
What?
Yeah.
I kind of gave them
Keep scrolling down.
I kind of gave them the business bank account already. No. I thought we were in a good position.
There's so much
here.
money in the BTS bank account, so we should be concerned.
That's right. That's right. Now,
we have like $4 in there.
Here's the real.
We have $4.
Here is the real question. By the way, that was a real email that came to the email address.
I believe it.
But this is the one we're using. It says, hello, Behind the Sins team. I was wondering if there was a piece of media, whether it be a film, television show, or music video, that you have a strong hatred for, but rewatch it so often. Thanks, Metalhead 1965. Second Metalhead shout out in this episode of BTS. So yeah, thank you for emailing us. Is there a piece of media, any kind of pop culture, that you have a strong hatred for, but decide to re-watch? Danae, what about you?
Yes, it's called MasterChef.
Do you hate MasterChef?
I hate it.
And you watch it?
I watch it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Is that Ramsey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, he's terrible.
I'm fascinated by this. So tell me about this hate watch.
So it is the production. I hate the production, but I love watching the competition part of it. And I love learning about food. But in this show, it's not about learning about food. It's not about watching people cook. It's about the drama. It's about and so I keep watching it hoping that maybe
they'll focus on the thing you like.
It'll kind of move more into that vein, but it doesn't. It's like cut to the clock, cut to the person, cut to the clock, cut to the person, and they just piece it together. And it's created to make you feel the sense of dread as far as, do they finish in time? What does it look like? Is it good? And then the hateful judges are looking down on you with scorn.
Yeah.
And I hate all of that. And yet I watch.
Nice.
So that's mine.
What about you, Jonathan?
Well, mine was actually pretty easy. The original Halloween, the 1978 film, is one of my all-time favorite films. It's one of those films that I think kind of makes up like my pop culture lexicon, I guess.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I'm really into film. It's stylistically, I mean, even beyond just being a horror film set at Halloween and all that kind of stuff, it's a very well directed film. It's a very interesting use of like a very minimal budget. Like what John Carpenter gets out of that movie with what he has in front of him is just outstanding. So I just love that movie. And I don't really like any of the sequels though. And there's a couple that there's now 11 sequels. There's about to be 2 more over the next couple of years. And there's a couple that I really hate. There are like movies in my like top 100 of all time that I've only seen 2 or 3 times, but I've seen Halloween Resurrection, the movie where Busta Rhymes defeats Michael Myers using Kung Fu.
Yes.
Like at least a dozen times. And I don't know what it is. I think it's just the character of Michael Myers is such a part of my, like I said, my pop cultural makeup.
Yeah.
And I love Halloween. Like I love stuff set around that time of year, that if it's just on, I'm just drawn to it, even though I know fundamentally it's one of the worst movies ever made. But I cannot not watch it, if that makes sense.
No, I think that's exactly what the question was. Well,
yeah,
done.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, so that's my answer. And there's probably a few other ones too, but that's the one I feel like I should feel the most guilty.
Great question.
About wasting my life.
Yeah, I think Danae is on the right track with hate watching a TV show. That's really the only place I could go. And I do have an obvious answer for me to this question. In fact, I think it's actually been brought up on the podcast before, but Twin Peaks is my answer.
Oh yeah, you watch it because people keep telling you.
And I hate it. I've hated every second of it. And I just keep thinking something's going to happen where it's going to get better because people love this show. They love this world. I am just convinced now that I've missed something. I don't understand how David Lynch is a thing. I don't get him.
Oh, so you don't like anything he's done.
I name some other stuff he's done that maybe I've seen.
I mean, Blue Velvet is actually one of my all-time favorite movies. The Straight Story would probably be the one I would think you would like the most.
Yes.
Maybe Lost Highway.
No. But yes,
did not like
Lost Highway. Yes to Straight Story. Thought Blue Velvet was ridiculous. I just don't get him. I don't understand that aesthetic. And what's fascinating about it for me is the X-Files is basically based on Twin Peaks. It's very much takes a lot of the audio.
Well, that's part of it. I mean, it also takes a lot from like Kolchak the Night Stalker and Twilight Zone and stuff like that.
And the Care Bears.
And the Care Bears, obviously.
Blue Velvet's one of my all-time favorite movies. Suburban horror is just, or suburban thrillers are just a thing I enjoy, and then that one does that, and then it's so weird. Like I don't know.
So
that movie just absolutely works for me.
So basically how it happened was I never watched the original Twin Peaks or the movie or anything. And then the new one came on and people were raving about the new one. And I was like, you know what? I should watch it, but I'm not going to watch it if I haven't watched the original Twin Peaks. That seems like a silly experience to have without, the foundation. And so I
especially with that show,
powered through the first season. There are elements of the first season I can kind of see why people find them interesting. That second season is trash as far as I'm concerned. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
Aaron, you need to calm down, buddy.
No. I mean, I think most Twin Peaks fans, I don't know. I haven't talked to a lot of Twin Peaks fans. I like Twin Peaks a lot. The second season is my least favorite of like the series, and the movie for that matter. I really dig the movie, which is also a prequel. That's an interesting example of a prequel that I quite enjoy.
And the movie is fast. It's David Bowie, right? Is it Bowie that's in?
Bowie's a lot. Yeah, a lot of people are in it, but yeah, Bowie's in it.
Yeah, like the David Bowie stuff I found interesting in the movie, that kind of stuff. Like there are bits and pieces where, I can at least acknowledge something interesting is happening. But the way he revels in nonsense is I just can't get my brain around it.
Well, and the thing about the second season, though, is he's not really involved with the show as much anymore at that point.
Yeah.
Now he was involved with the new stuff, but he wasn't involved. Like at that point, he was just running the show, but he wasn't involved that much.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to remember like how huge that show was for like a short time, and then it just died.
Yeah.
I mean, people had cherry pie parties.
Right. Yeah.
Every time there was a new episode, like I remember that very well.
That's
because I was 15 or whatever at the time, 14 came on.
And then it kind of started happening again with American Gods. The Neil Gaiman, I think it's a Showtime show, maybe?
I only watched the first like 3 episodes.
So, I watched through the first season, and about 3/4 of the way through, I was like, I'm having Twin Peaks flashbacks. Like, I just don't, this is not, and so I quit. I was like, I'm not doing this again.
And I know you don't really read, but God, that book is so good.
Yeah.
And that show is just garbage, in my opinion.
I really should learn to read. I really should
we can work on it.
I really should get around to
I
that.
think you would like Neil Gaiman for sure. Like if you read, I think he'd be right up your alley.
Well,
I don't know, did you like Coraline?
He did the David Tennant show, Michael Sheen and David Tennant show that was on.
Good Omens.
Good Omens.
That's a great book,
I actually
too.
really enjoyed Good Omens. So yeah, maybe I should.
I actually have not watched that. I was going to reread the book, and then I just never got around to it. So I do need to watch that.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I think those are my answers. And thank you for the question again, Metalhead. We appreciate it. If you've got a question for us, or a comment, or a deep philosophical discussion you want us to have, you can email us behindthesinspod. Don't forget the pod at gmail.com.
Don't forget the pod.
But if you want us to send your Nigerian aunt money, please don't.
Yes, just let us know.
We have $4, people.
All right, let's move on to Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond.
Somewhere beyond my wild history.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
All right, what's that one thing that you want to go beyond the sins to talk about from something you've seen recently in the world of pop culture? Can be good, can be bad, can be whatever.
Whatever.
Jonathan, why don't you kick us off? What do you want to talk about?
I started digging in a little bit to Apple Plus, which premiered on Friday, November 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I have watched all the episodes available, which there's only 3 episodes of each series that they launched with, of For All Mankind.
Yeah, tell me about it. They actually gave me access to the press site, so I have all these that I can watch.
I was curious about that because I saw you tweet a comment about the morning show, which I have not watched the morning show, so I can't comment on that. But okay, so For All Mankind is essentially it's a what if scenario of what if the global space race never ended. And what the show starts off with is that you see someone landing on the moon, all of USA is glued to the television. And then the announcer at the TV studio is like, they're about to say their first words, and the guy speaks in Russian. So it's an alternate history kind of thing where like Russia beat us or USSR beat us to the moon.
Right.
And then it takes off from there. So It's interesting. Like I like the concept. Ronald D. Moore's behind it, who did Battlestar Galactica, the reboot of that, and he's involved with some of the Star Trek shows. He also I have never watched Outlander, but I know that's a real popular series on Starz, and he's the head of that. So I really like him. There's a lot of pretty good actors in it. Joel Kinnaman's in it from The Killing.
Oh, I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah. He's one of the main guys. There's a lot of characters they go through. Jodie Balfour's on it. She was from The Crown and True Detective. Sonia Walger. She was Penny on Lost. Chris Bauer, really good character actor from True Blood. So it's a really interesting cast. It's a really interesting premise. I'm definitely, it's been entertaining. I do feel like it could be better. But I'm definitely intrigued enough to keep watching, just to see where they go with it. And all of these shows have been renewed, so we know they're not gonna end, after the first season at least. So I'm definitely gonna keep watching it as they roll them out. I believe, from what I understand, each show there's 4 shows that they launched with. They each have 3 episodes available, and then it's going to be a weekly rollout after that.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple more shows coming down the pipe that I'm really curious about. There's an M. Night Shyamalan show coming into November. And then there's I think it's a fictional show, but it kind of sounds like it might be like a fictional show about a true crime podcast or something. And that's coming out beginning of December. But For All Mankind's the only one I've been able to check out so far. I've enjoyed it enough to recommend it. I do think it could be better, but if that premise interests you at all, I think you're gonna get at least what I got out of it.
Yeah, we're a week away from Disney Plus. The streaming wars are upon us. It is
now Disney Plus. How many original series wise though? Is it going to have more? Is it just going to have a couple of things? I'm not even really sure. I know The Mandalorian.
Yeah, The Mandalorian's obviously the big one. You've got the Marvel shows that'll start up pretty quickly, and then you've also got right out of the bat, you've got the Kristen Bell show where she restages High School Musicals with the actual people who were in the musical in high school now that they're 20 years older. It sounds so much fun, and I love Kristen Bell already. So yeah, that one. I think it's called Encore. It's going to be. I cannot wait for Encore.
With Apple Plus, I'm definitely going to be sticking with it for a minute. I don't even know if you can do a yearly subscription, but I just did the monthly is all I signed up for. And the thing about Apple Plus is they don't really have a catalog. They're just right now, they're just doing original shows or material.
And then the other non-Marvel Star Wars one is The World According to Jeff Goldblum. And it's basically each episode is Jeff Goldblum explaining some sort of fact or scientific thing or whatever in a way that only Jeff Goldblum can. So
I think I'm less interested in that. But no, I've already signed up for Disney Plus. I have a kid. So
yeah.
That was kind of a no-brainer. I'm really excited about HBO Max though, but that's not going to be till May of next year.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where all these things go. And Apple Plus has spent Apple has spent an insane amount of money. The what is it?
Morning
show is $15 million an episode.
Well, I got to say, I dug the morning show enough, but it did make me miss a newsroom and a show that
I saw that tweet.
Show was could have been maybe written a little sharper, but the acting's incredible. Jennifer Aniston is mind blowing in morning show. In fact, today,
that's good to hear.
It kind of hit me in some interesting places because it's about doing a morning show, and I've done a morning show for a lot of my life.
Did?
Yeah, and so it was one of those things where they're talking about getting up really early in the morning and kind of how it's produced and those kind of things, and I was just like, oh, this
you
is
having flashbacks.
Yeah, I was having some flashbacks.
Listening.
I wonder if
I'm definitely watching that one next, but I was listening to the producer was on the creator or producer or something. She was on a podcast I listen to, a TV show podcast I listen to every week, and she was just talking about how when she started doing research into morning shows, it was just fascinating, the stuff she discovered, how much money they bring into the networks.
Yeah.
And just because you just kind of think they're just silly little start your morning with a cup of coffee and people are chatting, but there's so much that goes into them that nobody understands.
Yeah.
So I hope the show actually is exploring things like that. I don't know that it is, but I'm definitely going to check it out. I don't know how to not watch it with that cast, but I just just that big of an investment, though. I don't know how that could be profitable, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, they're paying a ton for that one. Mine, speaking of streaming services, comes from Netflix. I don't think I've talked about Jenny Slate's comedy special on here. And
no, I haven't heard of it.
I wanted to mention it. It's called Stage Fright, and she is hilarious. She is extremely transparent in this special about her childhood, growing up, different things like that. Danae, she reminds me a lot of you in the way that she kind of sees the world and approaches the world. And she's kind of got that, which excessive imagination thing that you have.
I have that. Right now you have horns.
Why do I have horns?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm worried that I have horns.
They're very unicorn-like.
Oh, unicorn horns.
Yes.
I feel a little better now.
It was like...
I was thinking I was Satan there for a second and wondering why. But it's called Stage Fright, and it is, again, not only very funny, but I think very interesting and informative, and I love those kind of comedy specials. She spends some of it in segments just talking to her family, like her mom and dad, her sisters, about growing up and what she was like as a child and kind of where things started. They talk about their haunted house. They talk about, kind of these different things that, and when I say that, I legitimately mean she believes their house was actually haunted. Like it's kind of this fascinating thing where she's doing her comedy special, and then we're breaking away to hear the reality behind these jokes that she's talking about and these life experiences that she's talking about.
That's
so yeah, it's
like a behind the scenes of her comedy.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. I like her. I think she's funny and clever and interesting, and I think you might like it too. So I thought I'd bring it up.
She was on Saturday Night Live for a few seasons.
She was.
And she still to this day has one of my all-time favorite recurring sketches. I think they only did it like 3 times maybe, but she played this person that like owned this company where they made a doorbell.
I don't remember this.
Do you remember this?
No.
I'm sure you could just do Jenny Slate doorbells or something on YouTube and it'll come up. But she would record different things that your doorbell could say when you pressed it. But it was all like just her voice, and she was really like it was a really like bland kind of New Yorker type accent.
Interesting.
So even though everything sounded the exact same, even though it would be like, it'd be like for computer, for nerds, and it would be like computers, internet, buzz. Like that would be, I don't know how to explain it. You just have to see it. But
nice.
Oh my God.
She also
made me die.
She also did this really cute little stop motion thing called Marcel the Shell. That I thought was really great too. So yeah, she's done a lot of interesting, fun stuff. So
she also did Chris Evans for a while. So
thank you very much. Danae, what do you got?
That's the tea right there.
Yeah, spilling the tea.
Well, whether you like it or don't like it, I have another game for you. I love coming up with new games.
No, that's great.
Okay. Listen, if you hate it...
So you're making these games too?
Do you think we're judging you for bringing a game to the table every week?
Well, I feel like it's just not... It's very expected.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she's
well,
going to
one
talk
of these
about
days
game.
you'll get to surprise us by talking about a movie that you've seen.
Whatever. I hate movies. Well, we talked about this. I'm the only one on the team that might actually not like watching things.
I still like when I asked you what TV. I was really curious what TV shows you liked, and you were just like, none. Yeah. I am a vacuum.
I'm a void. I'm a space vacuum.
Or void. Yeah. That's what it was. I'm a void.
I think this one's free, so I'm kind of trying to find one that maybe you guys can try it for that's totally free. I have played this one before, and I'm kind of coming back into it. It's called Card Thief. I think you played this one too.
I have played Card Thief. I have experience with this one. I played it for a little bit, actually. It's not bad.
No, it's not bad. It's kind of like,
it's not my kind of game, but I still kind of enjoyed it.
You kind of have this deck of cards, and you're a thief. And so, like, one of the cards that you lay down in front of you, it's not quite like solitaire, but you have like these, 3 columns. There's 9 cards in front of you.
There's rules to the cards, and one of the cards is a thief card. And so, kind of your goal is to try to get with whatever has been laid in front of you through the maze of cards. And each card is going to have some different way of interacting with you. You can try to get coins because you're a thief and kind of increase your loot. You can try to hide. You can snuff out the lights so that you can sneak better, and you can get caught by guards. So it's definitely one of those where you have a deck of cards, and your goal is to get through the entire deck of cards without being caught by
the guards. So it's like all based on the shuffle is sort of how it's played. And like Aaron said, there's all these rules and there's tutorials that kind of guide you on how to go through it. But I got away from this one because I wasn't very good at it. And then it sort of came across my feed again. I thought, I'm going to give that one a try.
Have you gotten better at it?
I'm terrible at it still.
Still terrible.
I mistakenly decided to just start playing again without doing the tutorial, but it's been long enough that I certainly forgot some of the basics.
Yeah.
So I sort of did myself a disservice. So I'm going to keep at it. It's just, I like playing games. This is sort of just one of those that you can, kind of shuffle through your cards and come back to it later. It's not like incredibly time consuming or anything. So anyways, I thought you guys might like it. It's very nice. It feels very dungeon. Cool. It's like a dungeon crawl in a way.
Yeah, it's also the aesthetic of it is very much a card game. It's like you're playing a card game on your phone, like a solitaire type card game. And I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels. Eventually, it just didn't offer a lot of, for me, a lot of strategic expansion. Once I kind of understood the rules.
I think besides getting through the deck, I believe that you can kind of gain
coins
and then you can get better skills so that you can do more than just the basics. But like I said, I suck at it, and so I haven't got I haven't been able to upgrade my equipment cards and such. But yeah, I like the graphics of it too. It's kind of dark and like rogue looking, like if you're playing a rogue in D&D or something, it sort of has that feel to it. So
cool.
Anyways, again, it's called Card Thief, and I believe it's available on both platforms.
Very nice. Well, there we go.
Oh, hey, Danae, one thing I forgot to mention about For All Mankind, though, is that you would hate it.
Oh, thank you.
Because there's more than one woman working at NASA
in
1969.
Yeah,
there's multiple
that's a
women
bunch of crap.
in the control room.
Get out of there, ladies.
Yeah, so
let the men lead. Get back to the kitchen.
I was like, maybe Danae will like this, and then they showed a shot of the control room, and I'm like, oh man,
Danae, just keep spouting sexist comments, please. I think it's so great. You have permission.
It is one of those things where in this area I have free reign.
Yeah, that's right.
And then hopefully everyone knows that I'm just BSing around.
That's going to wrap it up for Behind the Sins this week. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed. Go ahead and leave a comment or rating as well. You can hang out with us on Twitter. I am at Aaron Dicer. She is at Danae Says.
DENEE says.
And he is...
I thought we'd established that I'm just going to spell my name.
I wait for it every week. Every week, I'm just going to keep waiting for it.
Okay.
Just so there's an awkward pause.
Noted.
Every single week.
Noted.
And he is at Sam Lewis 13. So for Jonathan Watkins, Danae Hughes, and myself, we will see you next week.
But also, don't forget, go to our little survey site. We're doing a survey. So it's cinemasins.com/BTS. Tell us more about you. And also, if you want to, put your name into the newsletter, your email into the newsletter for our upcoming giveaway. Okay, now you can end the show, Aaron.
See you next week.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to behindthesinspod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe or message us at Twitter. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Did he say Chica?
Chica-dica.
I always wanted a Dika.
You've wanted a Dika?
Heck yeah. Who doesn't want to like pee standing upright?
No, you're right.
That sounds so cool.
You're right. Yeah, Dikas are pretty amazing.
Stop thinking about all of the other Dika things that are cool. I'm just talking about peeing.
Hey, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Guess what I'm doing?
He can't hear through the microphone.
I don't know.
I'm eating an apple.
Oh.
He's an asshole. He walks into the studio, he sets an apple down, and I was like, "You're a bad guy." And I went, "Ha, I'm learning, I'm doing it right." And he's like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh my goodness, I'm in love with apples.
Okay, Aaron has insane energy today.
Okay, listen. You're about to experience Dicer running energy. This is what happens after I run in the morning. I've started running again instead of just doing like biking and other cardio.
Yeah, it's not as hot anymore.
I hit the treadmill at the gym. I don't like running outside.
Oh, I gotcha.
But anyways, when I run and my heart rate gets up into that like 170 range, I have this energy for a couple hours afterward. And
this is basically like Aaron on drugs.
And I apologize because it is different. I recognize, like, just by the look on Danae's face within 2 minutes of being in here, she was like, you need to calm down.
Of all people to say that.
I know, right?
That's funny. So do you cut an apple up or do you just bite right in?
Oh, I bite right in, man.
He's just right in there.
I have really bad gums. Unless I want my apple to look like the side of a murder scene, I have to. I have to cut it up and just eat it normally, like just eat pieces.
So messed
Jonathan's like, I can't eat apples because I bleed all over them.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's super disgusting.
I can't bite into them. I eat bananas and cantaloupe. Those are my two fruits that I eat constantly. So.
Danae, tell us about your fruits.
That's personal.
I didn't say tell us about the fruit of your loins, although her name is Iris.
Fruit of my loins.
Yeah, she's Iris. The fruit of your loins. Your child. That's what fruit of your loins is your children.
Yeah, but now I have this weird visual of being some sort of like tree that just like
you are your mama tree.
Pops out of a kid fruit.
Yeah, she's your kid fruit.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
no, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. It's just a visual I have not processed yet. And so now I'm like a vine with a grape bunch that turns into a kid, or
yes,
an apple tree, or an orange tree. But instead I'm a Danae and recalling birth.
Yeah.
Did Iris trick or treat? Are you in an area where you can trick or treat? Or
first of all, thank you for changing the subject. And second, we did trick or treat like 2 weekends ago. We went to the mall and she was dressed up like Daniel Tiger, and it went really, really well.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw those pictures on YouTube, Twitter. You were a cowgirl or something, cow lady.
Yeah, I went like as a farmer or whatever. I had a cowboy hat, and I just put on a flannel, and then that's all. And pigtails, because that's like quintessential.
I guess farmer
right?
sounds better than cow lady.
Cow lady, yes. I went as a cow woman. Oh, still having flashbacks to being a mom.
You can't get away from it.
One of our neighbors has a side-by-side, so we just jumped on that, and he hooked a trailer up to it.
What is a side-by-side?
We followed the kids around the neighborhood. It's basically like a lot of we have a lot of golf carts in our neighborhood, but this is like it's not a car by any means, but it's a little more than like a golf cart. It's got like an engine in it, like a full engine in it.
What in the world? Danae, have you ever heard of a side-by-side? Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Is it a South thing? Is it just because I'm from Michigan that
I don't
I've never heard of this
I
thing?
really don't know.
A side-by-side.
Like, is it like a dune buggy?
Yeah, it's basically a dune buggy.
A side-by-side.
I've never heard them called side-by-sides.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've never heard that before in my life.
But it was really nice. I didn't have to walk, so I enjoyed that.
It's like calling a two-person bicycle a front and back.
Kinda, yeah.
Like what? We didn't do anything for Halloween. My kids are all older now, and they kind of went to their own parties and that kind of thing. And then we went and saw Terminator Dark Fate on Halloween, since that's when it opened. So yeah, we were at a movie when kids would usually be knocking on the door. So we turned the lights out and everything. We were that house on the block.
Well, at least you turned your lights out. The lady that's across the street, she had her lights on. And we just watched child after child after child go up to the door and knock, and nobody ever came. It was so uncomfortable.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
I mean,
weird.
I guess the worst is getting rocks, but that's the second worst. It's not having anybody at the door.
Right.
Did you see the viral video of the kid who went to the house that had the candy bowl? Like, some people just set a bowl out in front of the house, and it was...
Yeah, a lot of people do that in our neighborhood because they're trick-or-treating.
So he goes up to this house, and the bowl is empty, and he sees there's a little girl coming. And
I did see this.
He takes the candy out of his bag and puts it in the bowl so she'll have something.
I know.
Yeah, it was the sweetest thing ever.
Yeah, it was really, really sweet.
Did you remember that one from the baseball game? This was like a few years ago, where it was like, I don't know, a 12 or 13-year-old boy. He caught a foul ball, and there was a slightly older woman behind him. Like, she was probably like early 20s. He turned around and like smoothly gave the ball to her. Like,
like he was hitting on her?
I don't know. Yeah, kind of. It was kind of sweet and also very slick. It was just like, that kid's got some game.
That's amazing. we're going across the whole spectrum because the other one that was recently was during the World Series, and this is like the total opposite end of the spectrum where I just think it's completely stupid.
Where there were boobs?
No, I do remember that though. It seems like maybe we've talked about this before. And believe me, we'll be talking about boobs again in this episode. So,
I think you mean Yabbos.
Yes, exactly.
Did you hear what happened to those two women, though, that showed
they're in jail now,
yes,
right?
I've done a lot of research since then.
They're not in jail. No, I just randomly saw this, but they have been indefinitely suspended from any major league stadium.
They're never allowed to come to a baseball game again.
Which is insane.
No, I saw their video. It was all a publicity stunt for a website. I shouldn't say all a publicity stunt. It was also to raise money for breast.
Oh, they were models, right?
Yes.
Aren't they like working models?
Yes, they're working models for a website that it was for publicity for the website and also to raise money for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So that was kind of what they were doing. But they did a whole prep video where they showed how they were getting ready for it and all this kind of stuff. So it definitely wasn't spur of the moment. And
no, it definitely was not that. And it wasn't what I assumed, and they were trying to distract the pitcher.
Yeah, they actually had words on the inside of their shirt so that when they raised the shirt, there would be words showing on the inside of the shirt above their breasts.
Oh, yeah, I totally saw that. Yeah,
you
that's
did?
what I was paying attention. No.
No, Aaron. I saw something trending on Twitter yesterday. It was this poor dude that had like this horrific leg injury.
Oh, no. Did you accidentally see it?
Football, which is soccer.
Yeah. Did you accidentally see it?
No, I decided
good.
not to. The way that everyone was tweeting about it it's like one of those things where sometimes you get kind of curious about something and you click on it. This is one where you know that everybody who's a fan of the sport, they were so
These
so
happen,
freaked out.
man. Basketball, they happen a lot.
And
it's wild.
I guess the guy who fouled him, it
was somebody that did it to him?
Someone, and
that's
he
rough.
was like inconsolable.
Yeah.
Because obviously they don't want that stuff to happen. But I guess it was really bad.
There's been 3 or 4 instances in basketball of somebody just stopping and their bones just snap, when they stop, like the lower leg bones. I don't want to see it, but I kind of got blindsided by the show that The Rock does on HBO.
Oh, Ballers.
Because it was kind of about the players standing up for themselves. And in the middle of his speech about the players putting their bodies on the line, they show like 5 or 6 in a row of these graphic injuries that happen in football. And I was like, come on, man. Like, I don't know. I'm not usually like somebody who gets triggered by stuff, but I was just like, that just seems like, I don't know. I didn't want to see that. Although I did just get an email that I have a screener available for the movie Night Sweats.
Oh my God, what is that? I'm looking at it.
Written in
2019, John Wesley Shipp is in this.
Yeah, directed by Andrew Lyman Clark, starring John Wesley Shipp.
A skateboarder investigating the mysterious death of his roommate is led into the inner workings of a self-help company and the pharmaceutical lab behind it.
Night Sweats.
Comes out November 14th.
What a great movie name. Night Sweats.
I think we should offer a mini pod review of Night Sweats.
Yeah. As an incentive.
Night Sweats. Night Sweats. That's just...
I don't know why that's making me laugh, but it's just ridiculous.
It's such a ridiculous name for a movie.
You could have come up with so many other names.
By the way, pro tip, apples are great for mouth noise. Did you know this? My professional voiceover friend taught me this. Eating apples.
Oh, you like sound effects?
Well, no. When you eat apples, it clears up a lot of that like mouth noise that you can get. Mm-hmm. Makes your sound clearer. So he always eats an apple before he records everything every single time. So
they can also make your entire mouth be a pool of blood.
Hey, Aaron, you remember that one time you were like, "Hey, let me read these talking points for the survey promo that we're going to do," and then you're like, "Hey guys, let's talk about apples again."
Dang it, run energy. Hey, Jonathan, just to give you some insight into what you missed not being in the room with us, I'm going to say 6 feet away from Danae, something like that, sitting across from her. I have headphones on that, that are just picking up your audio. And I clearly heard her stomach just growl for like 5 seconds.
I wondered where you were going with that. Yo,
your stomach is conversational. That was crazy.
I really need to just try to get it.
It won't perform under pressure. Danae is now giving herself an ultrasound with the microphone. And by the way, it's not any one of us. We all just like to chatter. So
I never talk too much.
What the hell was that? It's like Danae the trucker. Like,
she's working on
candy cane.
She's screwing her microphone right now, and so it's.
How you said that? Just how you said that. I was tightening the screws of the microphone.
You know, the little.
Let's start the show. Talking so you can hear me, so we can do the show together.